Quickly into space, Concepcion, blockers in front, and here he goes. KC says TD.
This is 365 Sports.
Final 30 seconds of the quarter, second down throw to the end zone. Douglas! Touchdown, Texas Tech. What a drive.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
Sorsby the key, what a cut! Broken ankles! See ya!
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Another first down for Vandy. Pressure off the edge. He steps up, and now he's going to run for the end zone and score! Diego Pavia!
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Brown takes another shot. Wide open Koger. Touchdown, South Florida. 63 yards.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We are back together again. We've had a nice break from, well, just everything and enjoying family or enjoying watching a bunch of football. And we have a lot of things to get to. It's going to be hard to try to do it all at once. We'll try to break it down from the coaching carousel with the big nugget, Lane Kiffin yesterday and what that meant. Also, what's happening with BYU football coach Kalani Sitake with some speculation there. We'll do that. We'll also look back at the games. We'll also look ahead to the weekend of conference championships. Craig Smoak is back. Paul Catalina is back, and I'm back too. David Smoak, we appreciate your time. I don't even know where to start. We will be live on Saturday morning from AT&T Stadium for the Big 12 championship game. We'll broadcast a pregame show there from 9 until 10:30 that morning. But a lot to get to. Here was the one that had everybody held hostage. Marty Smith and ESPN with a graphic for about 24 hours that said imminent decision. He finally made it. Lane Kiffin's taking the money, going to LSU, got a hell of a deal. And for a school that just paid or will be paying Brian Kelly a ton of money, it's they don't have a worry about it because they have Lane Kiffin. He could not have gone to a worse school if you're an Ole Miss fan.
This was such a bizarre thing from the start. And by the way, they're paying Brian Kelly all $54 million. One of the things is we're not going to pay an exorbitant buyout. Well, they better get to the end of this contract because $73 million is the buyout on this one. Right here for Lane Kiffin. So they actually are paying more if this doesn't work out. But there's no reason to think that it wouldn't. He's the hottest coach right now. He's not won a conference title. He's not been to, well, now he's technically been to the playoff. It won't be there. I get why he did it. I think that there are different things. He just did not do it in the way that, would have been maybe the best. But I still don't understand why anyone thought that this is not Eric Morris coaching at North Texas and going to Oklahoma State, which are not in the same conference. Oklahoma State has no games left. They're not rivals. They hardly ever play. It's non-conference and all that. And for him to coach and keep talking to guys for a month that he could just take with him on January 2nd is insane to think that was ever going to happen.
Well, but
when he took the LSU job.
He is a different animal, no question about it. He has been around. He is now headed to LSU. He will not coach Ole Miss. Pete Golding takes over. Craig, your thoughts? This was the one that really held up everything, even though a lot of coaching changes and announcements happened yesterday, even before his announcement.
Well, first things first, what's up, chat? I hope you guys are doing well today. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving break and good to get a little time off, but came packed with lots of news and notes and things to talk about today. And, this was pretty much the front burner of the conversation all throughout Thanksgiving break. And up until went to sleep last night, this was still the buzziest story that was going on until waking up today and seeing all the talk about Sitake that we'll get to and just the rumor mills as far as Penn State goes and all of that. But it was a long wait to get a resolution here, and I know people have a lot of opinions. I have my own kind of opinions on how this was all handled, but ultimately Lane Kiffin is a great hire for LSU. That's where I'll start with. That's as good of a hire as they could possibly have made in this cycle. The biggest name they could have possibly gotten without bringing a guy out of retirement. And I think with what he's done and what he's still capable of doing now with even more at his disposal there in Baton Rouge and more support and more talent based around him and all those different things, I'm excited to see where he can lead this thing. I'm not the biggest Lane Kiffin fan in the world. I do think he tried to have his cake and eat it too. I don't think he was really weighing the should I go decision all that much. I think he was waiting out how long he could possibly get more things that he wanted before he had to leave, like coaching through the playoff. And that's really what the negotiations to me seemed like they were. Not, well, maybe I stay. It was more like, I'm definitely going, but can I take this with me or can I stay here until the end? And I think that's what they were trying to work through. And ultimately, Ole Miss said no, and I don't blame them for that. But, it's a great hire for LSU, and there's going to be even more haters for a guy who already had a lot of them to begin with, and there's going to be a tremendous amount of excitement surrounding LSU. And does it turn into a disaster like it has before with him, or does it turn into like the crowning achievement of his career, and this is like the step towards being that national championship winning head coach? We're going to find that out in the next 2 to 3 years, and I, for one, am intrigued. I'll say that. I'm very intrigued by Lane Kiffin at LSU.
Well, I am too. Listen, it's a big boy program. It's one of those that has everything you want, and they have history. A lot of guys have won national titles there, no matter the coaching changes. I get the lure there. It's just the circumstances that football, college sports, all seems to be broken. You can't. This is supply and demand, period. He has the demand, and LSU has the supply of cash, and they want to hit big after the Brian Kelly fiasco, and so. He will probably win at LSU. The pressure will be 10 times worse than it was at Ole Miss, but he didn't handle it well at USC. He didn't handle it well at Tennessee. And so
Oakland
with the Raiders. Yeah. So there's one other coaching story we want to get to, but let's put a cap on this one for now.
Yeah. There is an episode of Seinfeld. And I'm not going as far to call Lane Kiffin a hoe, which happened this weekend, and that made him very mad. But there's an episode of Seinfeld where Elaine dates a man who's a bad breaker-upper. And she's dating this guy, and everywhere they are around the city, these women come up to him, like one throws hot coffee on him, another like hits him, and she can't figure out because he seems like a nice guy. And then she finds out that he's a bad breaker-upper, and then when she breaks up with him, he tells her she has a head that's too big for her body. And he's just very insulting. Lane Kiffin is a bad breaker-upper. Like, he just doesn't go out clean. It just doesn't happen.
Yeah, I don't think he stays friends with his exes, and they all kind of travel in the same circles. I think he's dipping from the same pool, it almost feels like now, with your third SEC head coaching job. And I wouldn't be surprised if Alabama came calling one day and he ended up in Tuscaloosa before it was all said and done. I mean, the guy's still relatively young, but he's going to win at LSU. It's just a matter of if he can win more than he's ever won anywhere else, where he's won a lot now at Ole Miss, and he did a great job building up that program. And I understand and am totally alongside those Ole Miss fans who have sour grapes and who are pissed off at the way this playoff run is ending. But I do think Ole Miss had to do what's best for themselves, and I don't think it would have been prudent or smart on their part to let Lane Kiffin just have a recruiting like a running recruiting video of, look at me guiding this other team in the playoff. Come play for me at this other school I'll be at here in a few weeks. Like I understand those that want him to have his cake and eat it too, but I don't think that would have been the smart move on Ole Miss's part. That's just my personal opinion. So they did what they needed to. He did what he needed to. I'm not going to make this some big indictment on Lane Kiffin, the person. I think all his actions kind of speak for themselves. I find him sometimes entertaining, sometimes a bit goofy and overboard. But I do know that he is a really good football coach, and this will be as much pressure as he's ever faced. So it's just as much of a chance it ends in flames and dumpster fire as there is that it ends with him hoisting that big old piece of gold lipstick tube that is the national championship trophy these days. And anything in between, I don't think is what anybody's looking for. We're looking for either the cash out or the crash out. And man, he's getting the cash for sure today.
I do hate it for the Ole Miss program. One, it's great to have a coach that a lot of people want, especially someone like an LSU or Florida for a while, et cetera. At the same time, here you are having this magical run, best year ever. And now you have Pete Golding, who was promoted immediately and also made the permanent head coach to replace Kiffin. But it just seems like it's a little like incomplete. And good luck to them after winning against Mississippi State. Good luck to them as they get into the playoffs. And if they lose, no matter who it's to, you know what the excuse. No, you know there's going to be the reason of, well, Kiffin would have been there, they wouldn't have lost.
Well, sure. We'll see how it's reflected in the playoff rankings tomorrow night. I mean, does Ole Miss get dinged for not having their head coach the way that Florida State got dinged with not having Jordan Travis? Now, no, they won't be left out of the playoff because of the expanded field, obviously, but will there be some sort of like, hey, we're bumping you from this number to that number because you don't have your head coach? History says there should be. I mean, not having your head coach, but we'll see that tomorrow. And, yeah, it does feel like it's incomplete. It will always be a what if no matter what they do moving forward. And I do hate for Ole Miss fans that it ends this way. But I just don't think that him continuing to coach there all the while he's already visiting the number one recruit in the country for LSU. He's flipped his stuff over to LSU. Like, we could pretend that he's not going to LSU for another 2 or 3 weeks, but we all know he's going to LSU. So, it's not as much of an indictment for him as much as people want it to be. It is to some degree that he always finds himself in these sort of situations. But I think, like most have pointed out now at this point, it's more of an indictment on the sport and how it's currently situated and operating, and how the dates work, that you're having this type of a story at the start of your postseason. Right, and that's the big conversation.
I want to ask you this. All right. So how much of a ding should Ole Miss get? And I know that you have passion with this because of Jordan Travis, but how much of a ding? They're like 5 to 6, I think, right now. It's not enough to knock them out of the 12, but no. Do you feel like they'll go down a couple of notches?
Okay. I think it might be enough to where they don't get a home game. So they might not host. So I don't know what it should be or shouldn't be. I just know that they set a precedent that I thought was bullshit.
No, it was.
But they've done it. Here's the other thing. I don't want Ole Miss to suffer because Florida State was the victim of logic that I don't agree with. But I do think that there will be some kind of dinging for this because they do have it. So if you're sitting right now, I would say A&M's probably the 5 seed and they're the 6 or 7 seed because of their record, and they're both 11-1, right? And if you are going to ding them some spots, it probably won't matter other than the matchup they'd have in the next round. As long as they got to host, they probably wouldn't be hurt that much. But if you ding them from, say, 6 to 10 and they have to go on the road, then that kind of sucks.
Yeah. And they would have to go on the road if they get below the number 8 line with the 4 automatic, but 4 buys, and then the others is their place based on 5 through 8.
Well, the thing on the playoff seeding is that they are at number 7, so all the teams behind them have 2 losses with the exception of BYU. So I don't know who exactly would be able to jump them. You'd be sliding them behind Oklahoma, who they beat. You'd be sliding them there past Notre Dame, who's already in a big to-do with Miami. You're going to slide them past Alabama. maybe, but then Alabama's jumping Oklahoma. So there's kind of a weird situation, and I'm interested to see how they work it out. But I think that, we'll all be looking forward to that. And I think we're all glad to have some resolution because after 24 hours, it's like, come on, dude. It
was imminent.
Poor Marty Smith. That became he became a full blown meme this weekend.
Yeah, he did.
But he did a great job with handling all of that. And Pete Golding's a good choice. We'll see. All these hires look good in the moment, but Ole Miss didn't hesitate. So kudos to them for just being ready to make their move, knowing that this was probably coming.
I wonder if they would have made it that quickly had it not been a playoff situation, which remains to be seen. And, of course, there's a lot of discussion about right now who is in, who's out, as we had another weekend of evidence. And then there's the BYU story. Yes, they're playing Saturday at AT&T Stadium, a rematch against Tech to thump them in Lubbock earlier this year for the Big 12 championship game. And then Kalani Sitake and Joey McGuire are part of a Big 12 media press conference to promote the Edward Jones Big 12 Conference Championship game. And now there's this floating around. And I didn't get a chance to watch it, but some of you did or heard it. And it didn't seem as if anything was put to rest, but Kalani Sitake's name has been attached to Penn State. And how serious do you think this is?
Well, this started off as something that I didn't think was very serious at all. It came from one of those futures betting platforms. I first saw it. There's two of them, and I know they're different. They're both basically gambling, but with a loophole is how they operate the market. And so
60 Minutes last night, Polymarket.
Oh, really? So there's Polymarket and there's Kalshi, and you'll notice they've basically started advertising. You'll see their logos next to all these influencers now, where it's they're all on Kalshi or Polymarket or whatever. And they're these future gambling markets, which I have nothing to do with. But I do know that when I first saw this story, it was based on Kalshi, I think, had moved Kalani Sitake to their top choice for Penn State based on all of the fallout from the other moves that have been happening. And then that got picked up by people. And I don't know all the different lefts and rights that it took over the last couple of days, but I know that by yesterday especially, this thing had been a little bit of a spark and had gasoline poured on it. And then today, it's full-blown raging fire and panic in Provo that they might lose Kalani Sitake because there's just a lot of smoke and there's a lot of information floating around. And on social media, you can't always take it to the bank. Probably half the time do you just trust what you see at this point. But there is a lot of at least people with real credentials on the BYU side of things that seem to be backing up that, there's a lot of uncertainty. He was on his conference call today, was asked about, does he address stuff like that with his team? And he said, I believe that it is something that he does address with his team, but asked about the situation in general and if he was happy at BYU. He said that, they're paying him well and he's gained weight. And I don't know. I don't know if anybody directly, because I didn't give it a chance to listen to it, but I don't know if anybody said hey, are you going to Penn State or not? But they kind of at least danced around it. That part. Okay. And so you can fill in that part of it, but he didn't do anything to shoot down the rumors. And this is a very bad time, obviously, because you're preparing to play Texas Tech in the Big 12 title game, but there is a lot of smoke. Whereas just a couple days ago, it was just kind of some flickers and you're like, I don't buy that guy. That guy just says a lot of stuff that means nothing. And that person, I don't think, is really connected. And then all of a sudden, you start reading some of the reports today. For example, in the last 5-10 minutes, you've got one of the BYU beat reporters saying that there's team meetings called for this afternoon. Now, that could be absolutely nothing. That could absolutely be something. So that's where we are now, is we are read into every little thing that comes out of BYU from now until he's either signed some brand new extension a year after just signing one, or until Penn State names a head coach, basically. That's where we are, where there is a lot of just rumor and gossip about Kalani Sitake and Penn State.
The question, unless I first of all thought it was going to start at 1, it started earlier, so I only caught the last question to him, and it was, do you feel good about how I don't know the exact words, but something to the effect, do you feel good about how you guys are being paid or how you're being rewarded financially, even your staff, et cetera? And again, I'm just paraphrasing. And he said he said he was fine. He said, something about his weight. He goes, as long as Joey keeps offering to buy me dinner, was a part of that line too. But I never saw or heard it get to anything about specifically Penn State.
Yeah, when asked if he was happy with the way he and his staff have been treated financially by BYU, Kalani Sitake said, quote, I've gained weight. You can tell I'm living a good life. The more Joey McGuire buys dinner for me, the better my life gets. And so that was his line. He was asked about his relationship with BYU administration. He said it was strong. Asked again financially, he's happy. So those are the kinds of things that have been going around and floating around today. But there's a lot of people that are like, he's going to be the next head coach. And again, it's hard to tell what's real and what's not, because I've seen guys who have good sources that are right about some things, that are adamant about other things and are wrong. And I've seen guys who I know are absolutely full of S that are just taking advantage of the situation and all of a sudden have a bunch of sources because it's the trendy topic. I don't know, but there is enough here to think that this isn't just some BS thing that sprouted up out of complete thin air and has no substance to it. No, there is definitely some substance to it, and there's definitely a real concern right now in Provo that there is more to it than just that.
So a brief explainer for those who are maybe confused about Kalshi or Poly Market on those. They base it off of, they trade possibilities like elections and things like that, like you would predict a commodity. Oil futures, grain, all those other things, the commodities that are traded, by brokers. That's how they say it. It's just gambling on whatever you'd like to gamble on. I mean, like they would, if enough people would bet on it, they would bet who finishes their bottle of water first, Andrew or Garrett, and that would be a bet. Like you could it's kind of just betting on anything, and they're trying to circumvent around it. But for Penn State, this is why if I'm a BYU fan, I'm stressing about this, because since James Franklin got fired, there's been nothing. Like as far as who the next coach is going to be since Matt Rule and Kurt Signetti got their extensions. So that was like a week, 10 days after James Franklin got fired. And then since then, which has been 2 months, there's been no real buzz about anyone, which makes you wonder, who are they waiting on?
Well, after they hammered Rule's team, 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, there was a lot of buzz about the interim coach. Just, hey, give him the job. But you wonder if that's enough for the Penn State faithful donors and boosters. But they kind of leveled off. They kind of started playing better, almost beat Indiana. So I don't know the answer to that.
You're talking about Terry Smith, and absolutely not. You don't fire James Franklin to have your interim become your next head coach. Like that's not why you just did that whole arrangement and made the decision that you did to just go like, we got Terry Smith in house. Like you could have done that at any point. So I don't think that's the direction you ever pictured yourself going if you were the Nittany Lions. You definitely were looking at more of a big bite and plucking a big fish from somewhere. Now, based on the reaction I've seen from Penn State fans who are at least giving this some thought, you can tell who knows ball and who doesn't, because there's a lot of people like Kalani Sitake, like, who the hell is that?
Yeah.
And then there's those who are like, no, dude, he's like a really good coach. He'd be great. And there's a lot of that swirling now because this has gained so many legs in the last 24 to 48 hours. And again, it just started off as kind of like this betting site mentioning this possibility. And they've had, like, I don't know how it all works. And you know what? I don't want to know how it all works, but there's not necessarily anything to them putting a name there other than like, that's the new name because the other names that were in front of that name have now been hired to other jobs. So at first I kind of thought, well, maybe he's a lead candidate based on that. But regardless, there is something to this. There's a lot of nervous BYU fans right now. There's obviously a huge game coming up on Saturday, and Kalani and that teleconference tried to keep the focus on that as much as possible. But if he was intending to completely douse this rumor and put it out entirely, he did not do that during the teleconference. And so if anything, that only pours more gasoline on it. And you've got people coming out saying emphatically like he's going to be the next head coach at Penn State. Like I just saw a dude from Barstool said that. I don't know how accurate this guy is or not, but there's some people putting that out there that, no, he's not just a rumor, like it's going to happen. So I hate the timing for BYU fans, but to the point about Penn State, it's like, yeah, once they knew that Lane Kiffin wasn't coming, or I guess maybe some of the other SEC guys that got hired, all of a sudden you have this, as we'll get to, this whirlwind of hires that took place, like 5 SEC jobs filled up and another one's apparently opening up still. But everybody kind of seemed to have their guy ready. And then you look through the dust settling and you go, Penn State still, not only do they not have a guy, but who the hell are they even going after at this point? Because everybody else has their guy now, and it's not going to be Golish, and it's not going to be Sumrall, and it's not going to be Kiffin, and it's not going to be who the hell's going to, it's not even going to be Bob Chesney, who was the name that you thought it might be, because now he's going to UCLA. So I don't know what they do. Yeah. And you know what? I have so much respect for Kalani Sitake. I think it'd be a great hire for Penn State, but I know he's not a big splash per se.
I just looked up I don't know which these odds are, but right now Kalani Sitake is 7-4. Bob Chesney was 3-1. Well, he's off the board, right? Yep. Brian Daboll would be next at 7-2, and believe me, that would not get Happy Valley smiling again. And I'll just say, if you're a Penn State fan out there and you hear Kalani Sitake and your first reaction is, oh man, you're saying no to a head coach that as a human being, every single person who's ever met him loves him. Yeah, I wouldn't say no to that.
No, I think he's one of my favorite coaches that I've ever come across, and that's not just. I mean, I don't just give lip service for no reason. Like he's a cool dude. Everybody who's been around him knows that and knows what a gem he is as a person and as a coach. And so I hope that this does not turn out to be true and that he does, in fact, not only coach BYU through this weekend, but then is there for years and years to come. And part of me is still pulling in that direction that'll be the case just because of his ties there. But we would be silly to not at least acknowledge, like based on what I initially saw, we wouldn't even need to bring it up because it was it felt so far-fetched. And again, a lot of it was coming off of just a gambling website, at least the initial chatter about it. But as the weekend, I should say, has gone by, especially the last day or so, this has turned into more of a, I don't think that's probably happening to, oh my gosh, is this really happening? And I don't know how close it is to reality. I saw, earlier, again, there's so many different reports out there. You can't believe everything, but Josh Heupel was the guy for Penn State. And then he either, depending on who you read, he took his name out or they pivoted to Sitake. So it's like, who knows until the ink is dry and the dust settles, but this is worth talking about and there is something to it. And Sitake had his chance earlier today to just go ahead and shoot holes through the entire thing, and he did not do so. He's going to get some money out of this one way or the other, but where is he coaching next year is now a very real question. And at a really awful time for a BYU fan who's hoping to enjoy this week and maybe they'll get some resolution in the next day or two and they can go back to enjoying this run. But for right now, it is the big speculation du jour when it comes to the coaching carousel.
So here's the deal. Kiffin is at LSU and Penn State looking for a coach, and there's always another program that has to watch their back. And it's the week that BYU's playing against Tech in the Big 12 championship game. Now, we can go over some of what happened over the weekend, and we'll try to do that. But we need to look at what else is going on in the coaching carousel. And here are the programs that filled or have been filled, from even something that happened last week with Eric Morris at North Texas. We'll get to that. But Tavita Pritchard, Stanford. James Franklin, Virginia Tech. Of course, him being there is why Penn State's looking for a coach. Pat Fitzgerald, this happened quickly with Michigan State firing Jonathan Smith. Chesney, UCLA. Is that official?
It will be on Friday
and
after the game.
Fitzgerald's also not like completely.
He's signed. Done.
He's signed. Okay.
Yeah,
I was driving in today, so I haven't
Yeah.
been able to see everything. So yeah, that's official then. But yeah, not all of these Chesney, I think, is like all the way done. Yeah.
So then Eric Morris, we discussed at length before we left for the break last week. Ryan Silverfield, Memphis to Arkansas. Then you have Alex Golish for Auburn. Sumrall finally lands. He was rumored to go to a lot of different places. Florida gets their man, Kiffin, LSU, and then Pete Golding, promoted defensive coordinator, not interim, but permanent head coach. And then the other schools with Mora, which was kind of interesting, Mark Carney at Kent State and Jamarcus Shepard at Oregon State.
And Carney was one that was the interim that got elevated and given the job a few weeks ago. But yeah, this is the rundown of all those that have been hired, and great job, guys, on putting all those names and those graphics together. I actually had them separated by conference, but this is way easier to read. And there's just so much information to try to digest from just the last few weeks. And then you go like, oh yeah, like the Kent State job filled weeks ago, but a lot of these were the last 3 to 4 days. James Franklin obviously was about a week to 2 weeks ago, but the rest of them have been bang, 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 bang. And yesterday, like all those SEC jobs just felt like dominoes. Like once Kiffin made his decision, then it was just left and right, just job after job announcing their guy. The American got absolutely riddled. Mm-hmm. I mean, absolutely bullet hole shot through the American coaching circuit, unfortunately for that league. So a lot of those jobs will now have to be filled, but really good jobs like USF and Tulane and Memphis, like North Texas, like really all the best G6 jobs other than James Madison, which looks like they could be needing to fill their guy if now with Chesney going to UCLA. So, I mean, pretty much all the top G5 jobs have been opened here in the last few days. But I think Colorado State getting Moore was a hell of a hire that nobody was talking about or saw coming. And I'm kind of staring in awe at all of what's happened in the last couple of days, but a lot of thumbs up on these hires, as you typically get when you first hire somebody. And then we know that in about a year to 2 to especially 3, there will be a bunch of these that we're going, I can't believe so-and-so hired so-and-so. What a disaster that turned out to be. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Ole Miss is paying that Pete Golding buyout. Like, these aren't all going to land, but it is fun to see them when they're fresh and new, and that's a lot of coaching jobs that have changed over this offseason.
And it's not over, Paul, because here are other teams that's still looking for head coaches. Brandon, do we have that? Here we go. Cal, Kentucky, Stoops is out. Penn State, well, who knows what's going to happen there. And then look, as Craig mentioned, not just the American, but the group of 6 that just got obliterated with promotions to bigger programs or they were fired.
Yeah, Tim Beck got fired at Coastal, which is that's a really good,
that's
a program that cares, and so, yeah.
Dude, all those jobs right there, like I know UAB's had some ups and downs, but Moore left UConn as perfect of a place as you possibly can to swoop in there and take the reins and go win 9 games every year. And then all the rest of them, I mean, competing for playoff spots this year, previous years. Coastal's had their successes under Chadwell here recently. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of really good jobs that are opened up. And is the Stoops thing officially official?
Yeah,
okay.
Mitch Barnhart released a letter this morning and said that he's gone. The 2 favorites for that job, according to Chris Lowe, now of On3.com, are Will Stein, offensive coordinator at Oregon, who is a Kentucky native, and Brian Hartline, offensive coordinator at Ohio State.
That'd be good.
And I think anybody who hires Brian Hartline as a head coach is going to see a boost because he's one of the best recruiters in the country. Can we go back to the other graphic real quick, Brandon? I have lots of thoughts on all these, and we'll dive into them deeper. But for the SEC ones, I love Alex Golesh to Auburn because of Deuce Knight and being able to keep him and the kind of offense that he could plug him into. He started 2 weeks ago in the SEC special game against whoever it is, I forget, but he played well, and that has a lot of potential. That's a really solid hire. And for Arkansas, with Ryan Silverfield, they had a lot of fans who didn't like that. But do you remember when he beat you like 2 months ago? So he knows the area. I think it'll be good. That kind of was their realization that they weren't going to swim in the waters with everybody else. And I'll tell you this, I'm really mad that Florida hired John Summerall because he's so good. And if they give him the institutional support, they will win with him.
Yeah, I mean, we talked a good deal about Morris last week before going on break. Obviously, huge fans of that hire. Very excited for Oklahoma State. Intrigued by what he does once the playoff hopes are either dashed or they get in there and do whatever they're going to do. But first, they got to win the American this weekend. And if they do that, then good chance we're seeing them in the postseason. And it's a this is why you can't let Lane Kiffin coach, because Eric Morris, as much as it's going to be success for North Texas, whatever they do to what degree they do, it's still a walking billboard for this guy's going to be at Oklahoma State. And like, that's what it would have been with Ole Miss. So you see where the Rebs were coming from with that, but I don't think it does any harm compared to that situation to North Texas to have that be the case. But yeah, the Arkansas one, I don't know what their fans' expectations were. I don't know. I saw the 10 people that showed up at the parking lot that were pissed about Ryan Silverfield, but like, I don't know what they were anticipating with their job and the other vacancies that were open. If you were expecting a bigger fish, then maybe you should have been one of those that waited for the carousel to clear up a little bit more. I don't know, but Pat Fitzgerald, Michigan State obviously really liked him because they moved quick. I mean, they got rid of Jonathan Smith and said, all right. And kudos to Michigan State for just biting the bullet, not going like, well, we need to like reinvest in NIL. They knew like this thing's not going anywhere. We've seen enough in 2 years. We're moving and we're going to get Pat Fitzgerald. So You wish more schools did something like that in some cases. But, yeah, I mean, we can digest and I guess break down these to whatever degree you guys want to throughout the week, because they are a lot of jobs to talk about, but just a bunch of splashes and a lot of fun just from an outside looking in point of view.
We have so much to digest, and we'll do as much as we can. We do have Mack Brown today at 4. We have Brett McMurphy today at 4:30, and then Phil Bennett will join us today as well at 5 o'clock. But here's a picture with a couple of Houston fans that were at the game who watch our show. The Cherez brothers were there. We appreciate them for both being there. And, in fact, it's Eric on the left and then Richard on the right. And they were at the game. They text me, say, hey, come on down, say hi. I did. It was great to see you guys. And then also, on top of that, look at the super chat. $49.99. Thank you very much to the Cherez brothers for what they did and being a part of what was a memorable moment, along with many others that reached out to us over the weekend for what we do. Thank you very much.
Did you have to walk past many people to find them?
Yeah, enough. I had to go down the elevator, through a couple of side doors and everything else in between. Yeah, that was quite the experience. Raphael, Cherez, and also his brother Eric. We appreciate them, both Houston fans, for being there.
Well, glad you got to meet them, and I responded on Twitter. Couldn't be there. I was out of town up until just about an hour ago, actually. So wasn't at the game. Would have loved to have met y'all, and do appreciate the support and the super chat, and congrats on the win. Nice win. Houston 9-3. Yep. I mean, my gosh, a bunch of people, I think, on the opposing sideline that would love to go grab Willie Fritz if the time machine was available and say, hey, you want to be the head coach at Baylor? But that ship has sailed, and he's done a great job there in a short amount of time, and 9-3 is nothing to shake a stick at. And now, 2 wins against Baylor and Waco in the last 3 years. Yep. And safe to say that they've now taken the crown, the Bears and Dave Aranda, as the worst Power 4 team in the state of Texas, without any argument to be made, I feel like, at this point. Everybody else is thriving, basically. And the only one that's even close to mediocre would be TCU, and you'd still take their season over yours 10 times out of 10, and they beat you. And so, Houston's going one direction and Baylor's going the other, but I'm glad that we got some Houston folks that were in the house and had a good time.
All right, so thank you to everybody that was reaching out to us. We do appreciate everything that you do. You are the backbone of what we do every single day. Also, Greg Mullinax from Lubbock, who used to live in California, who watches us quite a bit too, reached out to me on Twitter. When we come back, we're going to break down some of the games. Man, there's a lot to get to there. Later on, we're going to look at the conference championship games coming up this week on Friday and Saturday. And this is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man that you want to be, need to be, used to be. By getting in touch with him, if you are in your 40s, 50s, and maybe even sometimes low testosterone can start to give you a little trouble in your late 30s. 1 out of every 3 or 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. What does that mean? Is your energy just not quite the same? And you feel like you're pretty fit or in good shape. You have a pretty good diet. You get enough sleep, but you're still not quite what you need to be or used to be. Well, Dr. Kent Petty, contact him at PettyClinicLowT.com. Tell him I sent you. He will get you set up to get an appointment, to get your blood work, take care of that for you, get the results, and then get back in touch with you if you need a boost when it comes to your testosterone level being too low. Your energy, your sex drive, your performance, your focus, your sleep habits, all of it can be affected by it at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Batteries Plus has teamed up with the Dallas Cowboys as the team's official battery recycling partner. Batteries Plus doesn't just sell batteries, they recycle them too. Customers can bring in old lithium batteries from power tools, power banks, and small electronics for a chance to win Cowboys tickets, a VIP experience, and more at qualifying locations. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
My go-to guy. Can you fix my smartphone?
Yes.
Do you have car batteries?
Yeah.
What about golf cart batteries?
Of course.
Battery from a G-Fob?
Absolutely.
My boat?
Huge variety.
Toy boat?
Sure.
Motorcycles?
You bet.
My apartment building?
Whole building.
Do you have batteries for my party lights?
Yeah.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Overwhelmed by your inbox? Clean Email is here to help.
Organize, clean, and manage your emails with powerful automation tools. Say goodbye to spam and clutter and enjoy a stress-free inbox. Try Clean Email today at cleanemail.com.
Golfballs.com carries the latest selection of golf balls, clubs, and gear from brands such as Titleist, TaylorMade, and Callaway. Golfballs.com remains the world leader in golf customization. And of course, online at golfballs.com.
UBO Business Services. We are a studies-based service organization that is the best in Texas when it comes to copiers, printers, and scanners. The way we quantify that is through a company used by millions of corporations called Net Promoter Score. What Net Promoter Score looks at are your Google reviews. We have a better Net Promoter Score than H-E-B with a 65 and Ritz-Carlton Hotels with a 70. According to Net Promoter Score, if you're a 70 or above, you're considered world-class in customer service. UBO Business Services is an 86 when it comes to Net Promoter Score. You can find us at ubeo.com, ubeo.com.
You don't want to miss our best price deals during the Black Friday sales event at Allen Samuels. This month, you can save big on the truck you've been looking for, like the new Rams. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, Ram trucks give you that first-class feel. With premium options like luxurious leather trim seating, surround view cameras, and more. Shop our great selection in-store or online today. Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, raise your cholesterol, and cause weight gain. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results. So if you're tired of being tired, call or go online at pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $165 a month, including lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, and follow-up visits, compared to $300 or more a month in Dallas or Austin. And you don't have to drive 90 miles one way or the other and fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T has board-certified physician consultations and will provide the best form of brand strength testosterone. Contact Petty Clinic Low T for increased energy, improvement in sexual desire and performance, mood, concentration, even a decrease in body and belly fat. Just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway, pettycliniclowt.com.
It's football season, and we can create your outdoor tailgating spaces that is actually a part of your home. Bifold doors that tie in the inside and the outside, and you can gain anywhere from 1,000 to 5,000 square feet living space, all while taking in the big game poolside. Call us at Gather & Co. Kitchen and Bath, where we can create your unique tailgating space.
You got batteries for my side-by-side?
Yes.
Replace my flashlight?
Sure thing. What about my business?
Oh, good one.
100%. Batteries for my fleet of trucks?
Gas floor scrubbers?
Yes, and fire panels. We have pallets of batteries.
Well, what about...
As your go-to guy, if it needs a battery, we have it.
Well, that's all you had to say.
Could have led with that.
Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
The chat room is having fun. We appreciate all of you who are in there. And there's a big discussion, of course, about who should get in or who shouldn't be, and what happens if you lose at a conference championship game. If you were in otherwise, would you get bumped? That's for another day for us, but enjoy it inside the chat. So I'm going to mention a game. You guys respond to it for as long as you want, but there's a bunch of them to get to, and you give me your thoughts. First of all, Ole Miss, despite all of the distraction of Lane Kiffin, they end up winning pretty easily against Jeff Lebby in Mississippi State.
Mississippi State's just not very good. I mean, they had a nice little start to the season, that big win over Arizona State, but they finished 1-7 in the conference. They are so far behind everybody else right now, and we'll see how that pans out with their young quarterback, their athletic quarterback that they really like. If he stays, I mean, that's always the question we have to ask now. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't surprised to see Ole Miss, kind of take it to them eventually. Although Mississippi State, they threw some haymakers early.
I mean, the most interesting thing about that game is what happened afterwards. I mean, it was an Ole Miss win where I don't think that was ever really much in doubt. Terrific year, but completely overshadowed by all the speculation surrounding Lane Kiffin. They took it to the Bulldogs, and I think Jeff Lebby's got a little something there to work with, but they got a long way to go. And the problem for them is that even if you arm yourself to the teeth compared to a year prior, everybody else in your league is doing that. And then there's 5 teams who have now gone and hired head coaches that are now going to have that new coach boost as well. So it's one of those things where you can swim as hard as you want to, and it might not ever be enough. And I do think there were some good strides. But, yeah, this is all about Ole Miss on and off the field.
In Austin, UT, when they play A&M, and A&M has a lot of good things going, maybe that word on Wednesday with the mojo or whatever else, but 10-3 at halftime. A&M doesn't do anything with their drives early in the third quarter. UT got hot enough with the run game with Trey Wisner. Arch started making plays with his feet. And Texas, it's just like clockwork when it comes to A&M trying to enjoy things in life.
Well, the most annoying thing about this one is it's now going to set off an off season of complaining out of Austin that they should have been in the playoff when they're likely not going to get in. Even though, look, they have some good points, but they also lost to Florida. So, yeah, I like for that game individually, A&M kind of played them how they needed to in the first half, and it got muddied up a little bit. And then Steve Sarkisian, like for all the struggles they've had, when he calls plays and notices things, he knows that when A&M gets beaten by runs, which Texas has not been good at, it's because they stunt. And he was able to call run plays when he saw stunts coming. So many times, Contravian Wisner had a great game for the first time this year, had a really great game. It's because they caught him in those stunts, and then A&M just did not respond when given opportunities.
Phil Bennett and I texted during that game, and he's going to join us at 5 to discuss exactly what you brought up, Paul, about A&M's defense against the UT run game.
Yeah, I mean, A&M has had a known weakness there playing against the run throughout this season, and Texas was able to step up and really expose that and take it to A&M and said weakness, but also just outplay them in a lot of other areas as well. Arch was clearly the better quarterback on Saturday. It felt like Marcel Reed from the get-go was just kind of jumpy, and then he gets his ankle hurt, and then there's that element of like, is he going to get knocked out of this game? And no, he's not, but he never looked comfortable to me, whereas Arch looked completely at home. Granted, it was in Austin. He was facing a little bit of a different crowd, but I don't think it was just that. I think it was he was ready for the moment, and I'm not quite sure that Marcel Reed was. All these big playmakers that A&M's had throughout the year, Texas did a great job of limiting those guys, and just a really masterful performance and atmosphere for UT on a day where they had not welcomed in A&M in well over a decade, and here they were with this big stage and an opportunity to play spoiler, and you could not have asked for a better crowd. You could not have asked for a better situation, and I guess in some ways you could have asked for a better performance, but not by much, because Arch did his thing, the defense did their thing, Wisner did his thing. The receivers made big catches when they needed to. I mean, was that Wingo in the back of the end zone with a great catch on an Arch throw that was just a little bit off?
Yep.
I mean, he could drop that. He could not catch that. I mean, there's a lot of things that could have gone wrong, but instead a lot of things went right for UT, and they earned that win, man. They were the better team, and I don't think there was much doubt about that at the end of the game. There was nothing fluky about that.
Yep, 10-3 at halftime, had just scored a couple of nice drives and had the ball first, and they squat on themselves and just never got going. Marcel Reed early on was way overmodulated. He eventually settled down, but obviously you can't run the ball, and they couldn't run the ball. Texas could run the ball. Usually in a big game like that, that's going to be the difference.
Do you know what Paul Catalina coaching discipline would be like for penalties? Because I could write a dissertation about how A&M's game against Texas, and last year too, the same thing happened. Was derailed by 5-yard penalties. So if I'm the coach, because they drove down in that first drive where the field goal got blocked, and they were doing really well, and it looked like they were about to, they kind of hit the rhythm, and what happened? A false start. They got a false start. If I'm the head coach of the team, my philosophy is holding penalties, don't care. Don't care if they happen, as long as they're not egregious. Face masks, don't care. Personal fouls and 5-yard penalties, you run until you piss blood. Like, absolutely, you are going to run.
I don't think most coaches mind personal fouls unless they're just completely stupid, like post-play, whatever. UT, there are concerns or debates or one or the other about who they are and where they should be once they release the 12 teams. They have a really damn good resume. They also have some warts. But the thing is that night, in the moment, they took over the game. The home crowd, maybe that was the difference. They were fired up, but they made plays, and they made A&M look kind of silly in the second half.
Yeah, they did. They kicked their ass in the second half, for the most part. And, again, Arch was really, really good. He's been on a tear here lately, and I think the upside and the big picture, you're starting to see all of that come into focus. They've made some tweaks along the offensive line as far as how things were operating, and that's paid dividends here over the last month or so. The run game being able to churn out some productive yards and move the chains with Trey Wisner obviously helps things a great deal as well, and was really a key to just like smothering A&M and not allowing them an opportunity to really get back into that game. And I just was thoroughly impressed by Texas, who's a very good team and has – look, if you're a Texas fan or a Texas coach or whatever, Sark went on his politician rant there at the end of the game, and he should. That's what he should be doing. And you know what? They have a case. You can't say there's some team that's just pulling stuff out of thin air and saying, well, we deserve it because we play in this league. They're going like, no, we've beaten multiple top 10 teams. We've done this and we've done that. Now, yes, we've also lost to Florida or we've lost to Ohio State. And now I see quotes from him today where he's basically saying that if they're going to be penalized for playing tough non-cons, then they're just not going to play tough non-cons. And I think that's unfortunate, but that was a conversation this offseason was like, how would that be used against teams, and would it lead to some teams going, well, let's not play the big game, or we all need to play the big game early on. So that's a separate conversation. And I want to see Texas play Ohio State, and I don't think that they should miss the playoff because of that.
They're not, though. That's not why they're.
It's not. But that's the never-ending argument. But they kind of are, because if they don't play it, then they only have 2 losses and they're in the playoff. I'm not trying to debate it here, but
no, I know, but I'm not either. I'm just saying one of the things that I see about that is if they would have played Miami of Ohio, then they would be in the playoff. At the same time, by losing to Ohio State, and it wasn't 21-3 by that game, even though they lost it, that actually helps their resume.
Not really when you have a third loss, though.
But, okay.
Like I said, I'm not trying to debate it. I'm just saying that's the argument, and you can look at it however you want to.
Not because of Ohio State. They're not in the playoff because they lost to Florida and played like crap against Kentucky and Mississippi State. And no matter what, they have 3 losses. Yes, one of them is Ohio State.
And look, here's the other thing. Okay, yes, they have those wins, but they also have 2 losses to 2 playoff teams, one of which was by 25 2 weeks ago to Georgia. So, you can make the argument all the way around that they have pros and cons on the resume.
If they made the 12-team playoff with their resume, I would not be angry because of who they've beaten. But you can't just look at who they've beaten. You have to look at who they lost to.
I don't like telling the consumers, the fans, the people of college football, well, we're mad about this, so we're going to take away the cool thing that we do. And I don't think that those things hurt as much as they say they do, but they're right. Had they played Rice and won and they're 10-2, it wouldn't have mattered what happened.
Yeah, they're in the playoff. That's the whole point of the conversation. Yeah.
So they saying that you deserve to be in the playoff at 9-3. Okay. That you're trying to take away a bad loss to Florida, which you shouldn't do. What you should use this is to propel the conversation about balancing out scheduling all the way across college football, which none of you want to do because the leadership of this sport is absolutely with their heads so far up their butts that they can't see the forest of the trees.
Yeah, that's what the conversation should be moving forward, and hopefully it is on, okay, how do we maintain these games and then teams don't get dinged for them to the point of where they want to not play these games anymore because we need Texas-Ohio State. We don't need Texas versus Stetson instead of Texas-Ohio State. But you can see where they're coming from. I don't agree with the argument necessarily. I do think if you're doing the best teams in the country right now, I'm not so sure they're not one of them. Like this very moment.
Oh, yeah. No,
they're better than A&M.
Yeah.
Look, so it depends on how you want to look at it. I'm not going to get into the mud on it because we don't have time to do that. But I understand the argument on their side of things. But I do go, yeah, but you lost 3 games. And I don't care that you go, But if, okay, well, if we're doing the if thing, there's a lot of ifs we can do. Well, if this team would have done that, then they're ahead of you. Like, so the if thing, I don't put a lot of weight into that, but it does shine a light on the scheduling and how that's viewed and strength of schedule and all of that. And that's why the SEC was just pounding the table about strength of scheduling this offseason, knowing that it stands to benefit them and really dull some of their losses when they have some. And I don't know how all that will get worked out, but I do think Texas is one of the best teams in the country right this very moment because of the way that Arch and the offense are operating and the fact that the defense has been good throughout. And that was a really good win. Playoff talk regardless, that was a really good win, an excellent atmosphere, and a terrible loss for A&M, who thankfully is still in the hunt for the playoff, but dinged their spot in the playoff, and now you're not playing for an SEC championship. So I know a lot of people are like, well, conference titles don't matter anymore. It would matter to me if I'd never won one before, and I was having a record year like this year. I'd want to play in the SEC title game and win that sucker for the first time, and instead you're going to be watching from home. And so that's a triple brutal pill to swallow for A&M. They'll have a saving grace of probably hosting a game at Kyle Field, and that'll make everything feel good.
Absolutely.
But
will, yeah.
and then it should. But you aren't going to win the SEC, and you can't say that wasn't a goal. And you're not going to beat Texas, and you can't say that wasn't a goal. So this won't be the perfect season. It could still be really good. But, that was a double whammy of a game on Friday.
No one is trying to disagree what a great win it was for Texas. To beat A&M, to beat them especially, even though they own that series, in a moment where UT had a chance to, like last year when A&M hosted UT beat them, and A&M could have done the same thing. They weren't up to it. They rarely are up to it. Like just a little bit of time when R.C. Slocum was there. They are really good, but here's the deal. We shouldn't play Ohio State. Texas fans, stop worrying about the playoff for a second. You demand those type of games. That's what makes you proud. You mean to tell me you want to play Miami of Ohio rather than Ohio State or Notre Dame or Michigan or whoever else? Or when you won the game in Tuscaloosa when it was a non-conference game just a few years back? That's what you want. Yeah, you want to be a part of the playoff too, but those are the non-conference. You don't want to play Sam Houston State or SFA or Tarleton State or UTEP. You want to play one of those games every year, and good for you for doing that too.
Yeah, they want to play those games, but they don't want to be like super penalized and get knocked out of the playoff for, but that's the risk that you run. And so all these ifs or whatever, like, well, if you don't play that next year, then you could make the playoff and probably would, but you did do that this year. And so it's probably going to ding them. And then that can lead to whatever it leads to this offseason. Again, I don't care to hash out the whole debate right here, especially when we're about to talk to Mack Brown, but I understand the argument. I also would penalize them for having lost 3 games. I don't care it was this top 5 team and it was this team, and it's not just Florida. It's you also lost by 25 to Georgia. Let's not act like that was a really close game. So you can talk about that, but I think they're probably on the outside looking in. When all is said and done, we'll see where they fall tomorrow night. They were starting so far back that we were all acknowledging, like, yeah, even if they beat A&M, barring some like 45-point whooping or something like that, they're going to have to really hope for some chaos. And there wasn't a lot of chaos this weekend. Except for maybe in the ACC with how all that turned out. But really great win for Texas. I think it's one that not only feels great in the now and the immediate future, but also when you start projecting even into next year. And like now it's back-to-back wins over the Aggies and the recruiting momentum and the way Arch is looking. And there's a lot of positives to take out of that game. The one negative is like, yeah, you're not in control of your own destiny. And for whatever you want the argument to be about that, you still lost 3 games to whoever they were to, however they went. You still lost 3. And when you lose 3 games, then you put yourself on the bubble, and that's where they find themselves.
Yeah, you can only look in the mirror. Now, also, if they win 40-17 against Kentucky or win 38-10 against Mississippi State, that wouldn't have hurt either. Those games also are at least looked at. I don't want to lose Texas and Ohio State non-conference. I don't want to lose those games. I love those in my opinion, I love those games early in the year, so I don't want those to go away. So there is part of that in the argument.
But you don't want to watch Indiana then just coast through the non-con playing Loyola of Marymount.
I don't.
And Cignetti like bragging about how they tricked the system, and then you're sitting there playing Ohio State and Columbus. And to the point of the argument, And right now they would not be in my playoff bracket. They'd probably, I don't know, I haven't set it up, but I mean, they'd be like 13 out of the 12, right? I mean, they're right there on the cusp of it. And to that argument, yeah, you have the 3 losses. You also have wins over 3 top 10 teams. So not everybody can boast about that. So they lost one more game than they should have. However, that came about, and they're on the bubble and probably on the outside looking in. But man, beating Oklahoma and A&M and winning 9-10 games, still a pretty good year regardless.
You wonder if Georgia was 21-17 or something like that, if that came into play at all too. But they let that thing get away from them in the fourth quarter. Man, there's a lot to get to. Mack Brown, former Texas coach. Of course, he's been elsewhere, Tulane, North Carolina, and others. Always love to get his feedback on just college football in general, but we'll look back at the game at DK Royal Memorial Stadium and more. This is 365 Sports. The Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco. It will be jumping over the next few weeks. No more football, and that might be a good thing after the year that Baylor had. But inside the Baylor Club, all sorts of great luncheons and meetings and dinners and more, and even business-type get-togethers for the holidays. And they have a fantastic menu when it comes to lunch, brunch, and or dinner. They could also, and they did this for a lot of different people. First of all, they were able to get dinners and meals on Thanksgiving Day to a lot of people around, families around Waco, because of the customers and those who bought their own food or bought food that was pre-cooked by the Baylor Club and then took it home, and that was simple for them. But by doing that, they also contributed to money and food going to families in need on Thanksgiving Day. It's the Baylor Club. Nick Colwell, general manager. They have renovated the club. They have also completely renovated the menu. It's fantastic. The top chefs, the amenities, and more inside McLean Stadium off I-35 in Waco.
I'm Camille Johnson with Camille Johnson Realtors. We specialize in selling residential real estate agent all across our community, and we love serving all types of families. We have been in business at Camille Johnson Realtors for almost 9 years, and I have been a residential real estate agent for almost 40 years. And we love our partnership with 365. So thank you for partnering with me, and thank you so much to all of my clients who have made our company a success.
No car payments for 90 days when you bring your auto loan home to Genco. Get 4.79% for 48 months and make no payments until 2026. Plus, get entered to win 3 months of no car payments. Bring your auto loan home to Genco. Lower your interest rate, save money, and no payments until 2026. For details, go to GencoFCU.org.
My money, my future, my credit union. Genco.
365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
We will hear from the great Mack Brown here momentarily. Today, Brett McMurphy joins us at the bottom of the hour on a lot of the coaching changes in college football. Then Phil Bennett will join us as he does on Mondays in the 5 o'clock hour to look at some of the weekend too, and also moving forward. Brandon, give me the thumbs up when Coach is available with us on 365 Sports. Getting an echo. Yep. And, okay, we're about to have Coach Mack Brown, and it'd be interesting to be able to hear from him on, first of all, the scene, the atmosphere at DKR Royal Memorial Stadium on what was Friday night. It was just electric. You could see that even with what was going on through your TV or flat screen as well. And we are about to get him. Mack Brown, head coach.
Hello. Brandon will just give us the thumbs up when he's there. So, but no, it was as an electric an atmosphere. And of course I wasn't there, but I've seen it in Austin in a long, long time. It was so loud and it was so hot there. Like just the fans and all that. It was, I look back to the time in like the middle where like people weren't going and they just kind of had fallen off, and what they've done since then has been so good in building it back up. And now, they look down and it's going to be the debate about 9-3 and getting in. And here's the other thing for Texas we did mention, like they are there and they have this resume, but they've got other problems coming at them. Like it could be that the ACC ruins this for a lot of people. If Duke winds up winning on Saturday, that will be a very bad thing for the college football playoff.
Yeah, potentially. I mean, it would be a very, very bad thing for the ACC because they're probably not going to get a team in the playoff. Exactly. That Duke tiebreaker scenario, really not something we got to get into with the games that we've talked about so far. But, yeah, that was not something that I even thought could happen. I thought when SMU lost that it was sort of an automatic that Miami was going to get in because I guess I just hadn't read deeply enough on the ACC, and I just had assumed that SMU was going to win. I just thought the Ponies were gonna win and take care of their business, and then there you are watching the Cal Golden Bears post firing, like sitting there revved up with the emotions of a change, and gave it to the Mustangs, and really threw the ACC on its head with that victory. So. We'll see if Duke can pull it off, but if they do, then there's going to be a lot of conversations this offseason that we know already. There's going to be a lot of talk about the playoff and the format and all that, but watch the ACC get left out in the cold entirely, and that will be definitely a fabric of this that we're going to be talking about for a while.
All right, we're working on Coach Breeze there. We got him, Garrett? Coach Mack Brown with us on 365 Sports. Nope, Brandon, you guys let me know.
We're going to use an overlay for him. So
okay, all
go
right.
ahead, just ask him a question and we'll go.
Okay, Mack, thank you very much for your time. We'll try to work out the camera part of it, but thank you very much for your time. Can you try to explain the electricity, the atmosphere, and Texas beating A&M when so much was on the line really for Texas A&M too?
David, it was unbelievable. It was absolutely amazing, and I do think it was a difference in the ball game. It was. We had great atmospheres when we were at Texas, but I've been to a lot of different stadiums, and I've never seen the electricity, the fans make a difference like they did on Friday night in this ball game. I thought it was a huge difference, and made it really difficult for A&M.
Mack, I was just kind of opining on A&M in the game, and they had two 5-yard penalty, 2 false starts down towards the goal line and opportunities where they really needed to score touchdowns. When you're in rivalry games, most of the time field goals don't get it done, and they had those, and it wound up leading to a blocked field goal and then a field goal attempt in points where they could have, when Texas wasn't playing well, kind of put some distance in between them before the Longhorns got hot. When you were coaching, which penalties bothered you more, 5-yard penalties or 15-yard penalties?
Well, Paul, it's the nature of the penalties. Number one, you can't have pre-snap penalties. You can't have offside. You can't have motion. You just can't do those things. That's just lack of discipline, and you can have post whistle penalties. Because with post whistle penalties, you've hit somebody late, you've gotten frustrated, the guy smacking back. It's always the second guy that gets the penalty. So pre-snap, post whistle penalties, and turnovers are absolute killers for the ball game. Now, most penalties are either holding, which is subjective, or pass interference. Those are the two that you hit the most. And you've got to be careful with your quarterback. I've heard a couple of penalties for trying to get the ball intentional grounding. That's tough because you don't want to take it back, but also you don't want to put your team in a tough spot for intentional grounding.
Coach, what have you made of the Texas offense as of late? There was a lot of hand-wringing the last few weeks, the lack of a run game, and then we see Wisner pop big on Saturday. You know, Arch obviously is always going to be hotly debated, but he's really been playing well. They've made some tweaks on the O-line. What do you think's been working the best, and what has Sark and company done on that side to really improve that side of the ball?
I think they've found their identity. They know who they are now. And they've really struggled throughout the year to figure out who they were and what they were doing, and how they were doing it. They had some injuries, and that made it tough too. But I do think that the biggest thing is that now they know who they are, and they're Wisner played like he did last year during the ball game. Arch is starting to make plays with his feet, and the quarterback that can run is just an absolute killer for the defense. Wingo is getting better, getting more confident. The other kids are getting healthy. The offensive line is very inexperienced. They get better every week, and they're just not getting to a place that you know what to do. So Sark had trouble with play selection early because different guys were out there. He usually goes to the tight end. He hit the tight end a couple of times the other night. That was critical, but the tight end hasn't been part of the offense this year. And I do feel like that listening to what you guys said earlier, Texas is trending. They're a better football team right now than they've been throughout the season. And I don't know what that means for the playoff committee, but it is important that you get better as a football team, and they're a better football team today than they played Ohio State.
Mack Brown, former college football coach. We all know Hall of Famer. Garrett, let's stop the video because it's a little bit different. We'll call him on the phone. Coach, if you don't mind, we're going to call you on your cell phone and get you hooked up a little bit better audio too. With UT now in that discussion, because you have the conference championship weekend and then the final standings released, the rankings released on Sunday, and we'll know the seeds 1 through 12 when it comes to the college football playoff. There are some scenarios where UT, it's going to take a lot of help, and they didn't get that from Alabama or Oklahoma with those teams both winning their games on over the weekend, among a couple of other teams as well. So we'll have Mack Brown reconnected here in just a second on 365 Sports. Also, by the way, we will have Brett McMurphy, who was following, of course, the Lane Kiffin story, the coaching carousel, and so much more. We'll have him here at the bottom of the hour. One other note, and this is for the Pick'em. Corey Michelson won the Pick'em again. North Star Funding Partners Pick'em. He's the second time he's won. He went 10-0. And we will have one more we'll set up when it comes to the conference championship games. Mack Brown rejoins us now on 365 Sports. So, Mack, with the resume, and, you know, Sark was doing what he should do among whatever else is the narrative. They did play at Ohio State. You did in 2005. You won that game. It launched you into a national championship season. Aren't UT fans, don't they demand those type of non-conference games, at least one of them per year? Would you like to see them have to give that up?
David, I would like to see everybody have to play one and make it across the board. We beat Ohio State in 2005, but that probably cost Ohio State the national championship shot because they were probably the third best team in the country.
Mm-hmm.
And that game came down to a 25-22 game at the end. But I do think that the committee's got to really figure out who they are. We had trouble with 4. Now we're having trouble with 12. If we go to 16, we're going to have trouble with 16. 17 and 18 are going to be mad. That's just the way it is. So as a media person, I was asked about being on that committee, and they wouldn't let the media on, so I didn't get to do it. But they would have us in for a day, and we would go through this with them. And I watched it, and it's a very good process. But there's not a human factor in there about what happens if Florida State loses their quarterback and they're 13-0. What happens if Ole Miss loses their coach and they don't have an offensive staff? Is that going to keep them out of the playoffs because they're not as good a football team right now as they would have been if Charlie Weiss Jr. is calling the plays and you've got a head coach that's been with them for 6 years? Are we looking at who are the best teams, or are we looking at the resume? Because we're the best teams at the end of the year, and obviously Texas is one of the best teams now, but it's the loss at Florida, the overtime at Kentucky, the overtime at Mississippi State, the bad loss at Georgia, even counting the loss at Ohio State, are those going to carry more weight than beating a ranked Vanderbilt or a ranked Oklahoma or a ranked Texas A&M? I mean, that's what you have to look at. And the other thing I believe, David, I don't think that we should have a group of 5 team playing in this playoff. I firmly believe they should have their own national championship playoff. Let Tulane and James Madison and North Texas be in a playoff by themselves, and we'll watch it. That's going to be great football with like teams that have the same budgets and the same opportunities, the same level of play. But if you put a North Texas in against Georgia in an opening game, that's not fair. That's not fair to the kids. And if you put those teams in, you're keeping a Texas out possibly, a Vanderbilt out possibly, that deserves to be in there more than they would. So I really believe it's not it's a factual statement. It's not a statement saying those teams aren't any good. They're really good. But for them to have a chance to win at this level, they don't have the money now to buy players like the others do. And the other thing I think we'll see at some point, we'll see conference championship games go away again. And we'll start seeing tiebreakers. Yeah. And we'll see less of the major teams, the Power 4 teams playing the group of 5, because we're going to have to cut the schedule back if we continue to expand the playoff. And we've got to look at the calendar, too, for the coaches. We've got championship games this weekend, and signing date is on Wednesday. Mm-hmm. I mean, that just makes no sense for the guys. So as you look at this committee has to decide who are the best 12 teams, and if Duke beats Virginia on Saturday, that means that there will be a 5-loss team in. So are we trying to get the best teams in the country? Because I always felt like that the conference champions should have a spot in. I think they should have a spot in if they're ranked at a certain level.
Mac,
that's the only way.
You coached at Tulane, and I think this is a fair question. When you were at Tulane, would you still want that same no group of 5 team involved?
Absolutely, because with all the group of 5 teams, we could still have 12 of them with a chance, or maybe even 15, 16, 18, like the Power 4 teams. We would still have 12 to 15 teams competing this weekend in championship games to see who gets in their playoff. What we're doing is we're down to 1, and they're going to have to play on the road against a great team in their opening game. And that's it. So the rest of them are going to bowl games, which is fine. But I really believe everybody would like to win a championship. And that's important. When I used to coach at Appalachian State, when I was when I was raising money, helping them during TV days raise money at Appalachian State, they were going to an upper division. And I said, you're winning national championships now. I wouldn't go up. Well, they've gone up, they've won bowl games, and it seems to have worked for them. But to me, I think we should have a Heisman Trophy winner for that level. We should have a Butkus Award winner for that level. And we should have a national championship game for that level. So those young people, when they start the season, those coaches have a chance to get to their playoff. Not just 1, but 12, maybe 16 next year. but I think they should have the same chance and rights that the Power Four group is having right now.
Mac, it seems to me that part of the problem, look, you had to lobby back in the BCS days, which I even went back and like YouTube's like some of those press conferences. I could tell you didn't like doing it because you felt like I shouldn't have to do this. You guys can watch the tape yourself. But it doesn't feel like college football as an organization is working together. It's like everybody is running in different directions and seeing who, can pull in that direction the furthest. And that's where we have to get to, though, right? Where everybody starts working together.
Yes. Nothing happens without alignment. Right now, we're not aligned in college football. We are all over the place. You have to have alignment. You have to have a strategic plan, and you have to have a group of people that care about your product enough that in the end, they make that strategic plan work. And that's what's going to happen. The committee this weekend, we got human beings on the committee. And somebody's going to be mad, like we said at the end, but is it the best team? Is it the team that played the hardest schedule that's the best team? Is it what looks like the eye candy says, if you're 10-2, you're better than 9-3? I think that's what we've got. What's subjective about who plays in the playoffs? And these folks on that committee have to come together and decide what is our formula to put. Is it the best teams, or is it the teams that are going to look the best at the end? What are we doing? And I don't have a clear picture right now of what that looks like.
Mac, what is Mike Elco trying to do now? Because that was obviously a gut punch. They had a chance to play in the SEC championship, go unbeaten, play Georgia, and then all of a sudden they blew a tire in the second half, and give Texas credit for that. They're the ones that popped it. But how hard will that be for him to, or is the off week with no championship game maybe a good thing? They'd rather be in it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. David, this won't be popular with all my friends at Texas, but I'm a Mike Elco fan. I watched him at Wake Forest with Dave Clawson's the defensive coordinator. He did an unbelievable job at Notre Dame with Brian Kelly. He was the head coach at Duke for 2 years before he came against me at Carolina, before he came to Texas-A&M. They're well coached. They're disciplined. They're tough. I'm sure they're really disappointed in the game the other night. But he's a tough, hard-working, go right back to work guy. So A&M could be a force. Marcel Reed's going to be a great young quarterback. I thought Arch played better in the second half than Marcel, and it might have been because he got banged up. He got hurt. And Vince Young and I are on the Stampede podcast every week. He works with Marcel. He helps him, and he believes he is a superstar going forward. And I think that too, because you see him make those plays. But it's I don't like people saying, I wish we weren't in the conference championship game.
Yeah.
If that's the case, then we shouldn't have them.
Right.
They're still champions, and they're still the best team in your league. And that's really, really important. And I remember Steve Spurrier saying once, the conference championship game is more important than us beating Florida State, when Florida State was an independent or in the ACC. And I'm sure the Florida fans didn't like that. But to me, if you're going to play it, man, it's important to win. And if you want your team to get better, it's important to get better and move forward. And they said, well, Carson Beck got hurt in the championship game last year for Georgia against Texas, so that hurt them in the playoffs. You can get hurt on a bicycle. Ricky Williams played in the bowl game against Mississippi State in the Cotton Bowl, our first year here. Ricky Williams played in the All-Star game. Grant Taft said, I know he's not going to play. Could he come and be a captain? And Ricky said, I want to go, man. And I said, why would you play? And he said, because I love football. That's why I play, Coach. I could get hurt anywhere. And then David and Paul were sitting in the we're playing Michigan in the Rose Bowl. And you're right, Paul. I stood up for our team. Sark stood up for his team. Every coach better stand up for their team. That's their job. That's their job. I wasn't trying to get Cal in the Rose Bowl. I was trying to get people to understand that we deserve to be in. And my job was to educate people that didn't know as much about us. But we're in the Rose Bowl. Cedric Benson's our tailback. We lost Cedric a few years ago, which was a tragedy for such a young guy to be gone. He's going to be a top 15 pick in the first round. He hyperextends his knee on the first play. He comes to the sideline, and they say, I don't know that I'd go back in, Cedric. You're a first-round draft pick. The doctor's doing. He says, tape it up, man. This is Texas, Michigan in the Rose Bowl. I'm going to play. He plays the game. He doesn't play great, but they had to tackle him enough that Vince played great and made a lot of extra yards because Cedric was in there. After the game, I talked to the team. I talked to the media. I go back, and I get dressed, and I'm walking out of the locker room at the Rose Bowl, and Cedric Benson sitting in the corner by himself in his full uniform crying. He's the only one left in the locker room. And I said, are you okay? And he said, yeah. He's wiping his tears. And he said, yeah, I'm okay, Coach. I said, is it your knee? And he said, no. I said, so what's wrong? And he said, this is the last time I'll ever wear a University of Texas football uniform, and I don't want to take it off. Now, that's what we're missing right now in some of this. I don't want to play in a championship game. I'm not going to play in a bowl game unless it matters. Well, how can you be the captain of your team, a leader of your team, and your team is going to a bowl game if they couldn't get in the playoff, and it not matter? It matters. Team matters. Winning matters. It matters for the rest of your life because you did what you were supposed to do to finish the journey that you were on. And that's where when I hear conference championship games aren't important, come on, man. What have we gotten to when a championship game is not important? If it's not important, let's don't play it.
Mac, that was a great story. I was thinking about that game against Michigan, and it's weird how little things affect other things. The butterfly effect of Cedric being a little dinged up. I think that Rose Bowl game was kind of where Vince put the rest of the country outside of the Big 12 world on notice that, hey, this is going to be something to deal with now, too, because, you didn't have Cedric at full speed, and then Vince had to kick it up a gear.
Yeah. If we don't make a 4th and 18 at Kansas, then we don't go to the Rose Bowl.
I know.
I mean, so Kansas was important. We don't go to the Rose Bowl. If we don't beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl, I'm not sure we beat USC the next year because that put our program in a different level. It told us we're second, we could be first. And Vince stood in the middle of the field on that stage, and they said, Vince, what about the game? He said, we'll be back. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm telling this team and I'm telling our fans the national championship game is played here next year. We'll stay in the same hotel. We'll practice at the same place, and we're going to beat USC on this field because all this was preparation for the national championship. So I agree completely that game against Michigan elevated our program to a different level.
It reminds me of high school coaches now in Texas who go and visit, remember, Texas Stadium or somewhere where they have the championship games now at AT&T to kind of give them a feel for that. And not everyone eventually does that, but it kind of gives them that look, except you actually played at a big boy game against a great opponent too to get there. Mack, my question to you then, I know you're enjoying retirement, but you're never retired. You're going to be doing a lot, and you have the great podcast with Vince, et cetera. Have you ever really thought that if you were given the opportunity to run college football, that you would enjoy that, or would that be something you would want to touch with a 10-foot pole?
Well, David, number one, I will never retire. I'm rewired.
I know.
I like rewired. I don't like retired. It sounds tired and old, and it sounds like you've got that you're limping around with your head down. I'm not shuffling yet. I'm not drooling, so I'm good. I'm in a good spot there. I would run college football if we had an organized process in place where we could get things done. Grant Taft was a great president of the American Football Coaches Association. And when I was on the board for a number of years and became the president, we had a process and we got a lot of things done. We got 10 coaches instead of 9 for college football. We got so many things done, but Grant sat there. We went through it as a board. We asked all of our coaches in college football, and we had a reason and a process, and we got things done. Right now, I'm not sure who's in charge, so I wouldn't want to be involved unless you could get things done. If you could get things done, and it's still not a popular job, it'd be controversial, but we've got to stand up and get things done. The calendar's bad for the kids and the coaches. The NIL's bad for our fans. I don't think it's great for the kids. I think they should be paid, but there should be a process. The coaches are making more money than ever. They're all miserable because they're all over the place. It's just absolutely crazy what's happening with them. And we've got donor fatigue. Our poor donors are still paying for facilities. They're still paying for parking. They're still paying for season tickets and game tickets, which are really expensive. And now we've got all of our sports calling them, asking them for money for NIL. So this just isn't sustainable. And it's not healthy right now with all the kids transferring so much. We're going to have kids not graduating. And when they don't graduate, they're not going to have a community to support them. They're not going to be able to get jobs. And then I'm really worried that we'll have some mental health issues. So I really believe that we've all got to get in one room together. A lot of smart people, and we got to get common sense in this thing and get in one room and start making some changes and making them quickly. And we got to make changes that are best for the sport, not best for your school.
Happy Thanksgiving and holidays to you, Mack. We appreciate your time. I know it was an unbelievable electric night on Friday, and we appreciate your time today. We really do. Always great to have you on the show.
Thank you, guys. Sorry about my lack of technology. No. I had somebody doing this for 36 years, and now I'm my own assistant.
Look, you got Baloo. Does he come over to your house and help you out? I'll send him over.
No, we go down to the studio. Okay. They don't trust me at my house. So, and I did get into the studio, so I'm not sure that some of you guys didn't help me either. So we're all over the place here. Thank you, guys.
We appreciate you. Mack Brown with us on 365 Sports. Appreciate his time. And you just wish it was that easy, right? It's not, because not everybody wants to be on the same page, but we appreciate his opinions and feedback from the game Friday, A&M in Texas, to everything college football. When we come back, Brett McMurphy of On 3 on all the coaching crazy and the story, of course, of Lane Kiffin and more. This is 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat. Ted Teague, general manager and CEO, sent this to me on Friday morning. 2023 Jeep Gladiator for $33,426, only 32,000 miles on the vehicle. One owner, 2024 Ram, 1500 Laramie for $37,950. A Powerhouse 2024 Ram 3500 Tradesman 4x4, $57,950. Those that runs the incentives until tonight when they close the business at Loop 340 and east of 84 in Waco. A 2020 Subaru WRX limited for $21,980. A 2022 Alfa Romero for $29,590. Available through the day until they close the dealership going on later on tonight. Alan Samuels, a carryover from Black Friday, and there will be new incentives, of course, heading into the holidays with Christmas and the New Year's. It's Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
You don't want to miss our best price deals during the Black Friday sales event at Alan Samuels. This month, you can save big on the truck you've been looking for, like the new Rams. Designed to be durable, functional, and stylish, Ram trucks give you that first-class feel. With premium options like luxurious leather trim seating, surround view cameras, and more. Shop our great selection in-store or online today. Alan Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
Over 30% of adults struggle with chronic foot and joint pain, and many face mobility limitations as they age. But a revolutionary Comfort First slipper has taken the wellness world by storm. Try Cloud Slides and feel you are walking on the clouds. Cloud Slides.
Football is back, and Underdog is the best place to make picks and win money all season long.
Playing on Underdog is easy. Just pick whether your favorite players will go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, receiving yards, interceptions, and more. Get your picks right and you could win up to 5,000 times your cash. You can play with as little as $1. Download the app today and sign up with promo code SPORTS365 to score $50 in bonus funds when you play your first $5. That's promo code SPORTS365. Millions of fans have already won billions making picks on Underdog. Will you be next? Underdog. Make picks. Win money. Must be 18 and up. 19 and up in Alabama, Nebraska, 19 and up, and in Colorado for some games, 21 and up in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. And must be present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. That's 467-369. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/play and get terms _DFS_.html for details.
Serving Central Texas since 1889, TFNB Your Bank for Life takes pride in being more than a bank. TFNB, we remain committed to these principles. If you value them too, come join us. TFNB, your bank for life.
With over 25 years of excellence in IT, Carrion Solutions is your trusted technology partner. From managed IT services to cutting-edge cybersecurity, our expert team delivers tailored solutions that drive success. Our portfolio includes products such as Veeam, Bitdefender, Microsoft, Cisco, and Fortinet. Call David Carrion and his team of experts. Call 888-522-2221 or visit us at carrionsolutions.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Well, Brett McMurphy's tied into college football as anybody that we know. And great to have him. I know he doesn't have a lot of time. It's been busy. It remains busy. Brett, thank you with Craig and Paul, David Smoak. Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you had a great weekend. Have you ever seen a weekend like imminent with Lane Kiffin and all the changes, even though, yeah, we were expecting some of them after the season ended?
Yeah, thanks, Smokey. No, I really haven't. It was, you have busy weeks in the past, the coaching carousel, but basically for all of that to happen on top of Hurricane Lane, that kind of made for the imperfect storm, if you will. And yeah, it was, I've never seen anything like it. That's why I'm sure you saw last week, I reached out about the 85 folks to get the prediction on where Lane was going, because nobody knew. And that was the point of the whole exercise. Not that anyone had this inside information that knew what was going to happen at that point. I don't think Lane knew, but it was just, it captured everybody by storm. And he's obviously a lightning bolt for attention. And then that happens. And then, within 24 hours, you've got 4 coaches leave the American for Power 5 jobs. And you're like, okay, it's finally calmed down. And then Jonathan Smith gets whacked. And then Mark Stoops gets whacked. Yeah, it was crazy for sure.
Brett, when Lane Kiffin walked into the room and told Keith Carter, hey, I'm going to LSU, but I would like to stay here for a month and totally not recruit my team and coach in the playoff, was he expecting a yes? Is that why it took so long? Or because it seems to me that would be a pretty fast no. I know the calendar's a mess, but there's just too unique of a situation to let that pass that way.
Yeah, I don't know exactly what he was expecting. I really think he was hoping he could do both. And look, there's not a right or wrong answer. You can either let the guy coach or not let him coach. That's what Ole Miss did. That's what, for younger people that don't remember, Michigan did that in 1989 with their basketball coach. They won the Big Ten title. Bill Frieder took a job at Arizona State 3 days before the NCAA tournament, and Michigan AD Bo Schembechler fired him on the spot and said, "We want a Michigan man to coach us." Steve Fisher was the interim coach, and all he did was lead Michigan to the NCAA national title in basketball. So I think Kiffin wanted to do both. I understand why Carter didn't want him to do it. Everybody that I talked to in the industry, at least at the athletic department level and above, said, no way in hell am I going to let him coach that team. He's taken another job. He's left. It's unfortunate what it does to the team. I wrote about this last week. I talked to a Vegas odds maker. They would downgrade Ole Miss from 2 to 4 points without Lane Kiffin. Now, the selection committee does not power rate teams, but certainly if they're going to downgrade Ole Miss 2 to 4 points, how is the committee going to view Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin? I'm not saying this is going to be a Florida State situation where they totally knock them out of the playoffs. We've got 12 teams now, so that's not going to happen. Well, potentially, right now they're at 7 going into tonight's rankings. If they bump back to 9, guys, that's the difference between hosting a first-round game and being on the road in a first-round game. And so they're going to have to decide if they're going to downgrade Ole Miss without Kiffin. I don't like it, but I think you've got to do that. I don't think anybody in the right mind can say Ole Miss is expected to be as strong a team without their offensive play caller, without a couple of assistants on the offensive side. And also your head coach is one of the best offensive minds in the game.
So, Brett, the biggest job that didn't fall this past weekend and that remains out there right now is Penn State. And your counterpart at On3, Chris Lowe, had the report earlier that Josh Heupel is not going to be a candidate for the Penn State job. And I'm sure you've seen all this smoke that's been building for like the last couple of days around Kalani Sitake of BYU. Do you think there's some actual substance to Sitake and Penn State, or where do you kind of feel like the Penn State job is right now?
How about skip that question and come back to me at the end of the interview?
Okay.
Give me something else, and then I'll answer it.
Okay. How do you feel about Eric Morris heading to Stillwater?
Love him. Love him.
Yeah.
Let's go. Look, I'm an Oklahoma State guy. What he's done offensively, hey, it's worked wonders in the American. Now let's see if it can work well at the Power 4 level. I mentioned all the guys from the American going to Power 4 jobs. Eric went to Oklahoma State. The other 3 went to the SEC. Certainly, look, not dissing my own conference, but it's reality. It's an easier path to the playoff in the Big 12 than, at Auburn and at Arkansas and certainly at Florida. And so that's why I think it's a good situation for him. We'll see how it works out. If he can bring a lot of players, that certainly will benefit the Pokes because we need as much help as possible.
I know in the ACC this question wouldn't work, but should a team like an Alabama, if they lose to Georgia, or if Tech was to lose to BYU, who they dominated, if they lose in a conference championship game, if they were locked in beforehand as a playoff team, should they be dinged for that?
Yeah, David, I don't think they should, because let's look at it. And this is not an Alabama argument. This is simply any team. You can put any team in this equation. So we're using Alabama because it's Alabama. Alabama right now is the number 10 ranked team in the country. They may move up to 9. They may stay at 10. So now they play Georgia, which is going to be ranked 2 or 3. Well, excuse me, they'll be ranked number 3. So they play number 3 Georgia, and now they lose that game. Should they tumble from 10 all the way out of the playoffs because they lose to the number 3 team? I would say no, because it's this simple. If Texas A&M would have beat Texas, Alabama would still be ranked number 10. The only difference is they would not be playing in the SEC title game. So you can't penalize them for playing in the SEC title game and losing when simply another result would have still kept them ranked number 10, but they wouldn't be in the SEC title game. Now, obviously, this is different when we're talking a Big 12 champion and ACC champion, but specifically for a team that's at number 10, playing in the conference championship game and losing to a team in the top 4, again, it's a beauty pageant, but if I was on that committee, I would not move them at all. Unless now, if they lose by 4 touchdowns, that's a different conversation. Yep. But if they're somewhat competitive, I'd keep them there.
Do you think that the Tech and BYU will be affected by that at all? Or do you think that they're both comfortable?
Well, no, BYU has to win. The only way BYU gets in is if they win. I think Tech's in win or lose. Obviously, Tech won't have a first-round bye if they lose. Tech is not going to fall from – Tech's going to be – I'm guessing they'll be 4 tonight. Tech's not going to go from 4 to 12 if they lose this game. Then BYU gets the automatic bid. So for Big 12 fans, you want BYU to win. If you're a fan of Alabama, Notre Dame, Oklahoma, if you're a Miami fan and you've got the pipe dream that somehow you're going to get in, you're not, but you're certainly not going to get in if BYU gets in because they're basically stealing a bid if that happens. And then the committee's got to decide. That's a great question. The committee then will have to decide between Oklahoma, between Notre Dame, between Alabama, which one of those teams is out if BYU gets in. And I don't know what the answer to that will be.
Brett, what do you think can be done, if anything, about the calendar? And that's obviously a hot topic of discussion with all these moves being made in the Lane Kiffin situation in particular, not being the coach in the playoffs. Are there decision makers actually around to make decisions like that? Typically, it's the schools that have to agree to these types of things. So how would all of that work in theory, if at all feasible?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I don't have enough time to explain that. But you got to get everybody on board, and it's not that simple. I mean, they can't even figure out what they want to do with the playoff. How are they going to do a calendar? It's, again, you don't have a commissioner, so you don't have one person that can get this thing done. Each conference is doing what's best for them. What may work for the SEC may not work for the ACC, may not work for the Big 12, et cetera. So I don't know how you exactly get this done. They've got to come up with something, but guys, I don't know how they do it. It's so complicated. The best way to do it is the way they won't do it, and that is just blow everything up and start over from scratch. But that'll never happen. Yeah,
that's always the easy, simple answer, but the one they refuse to. So, yeah, I mean, I know that's a loaded question, but it's great for folks like us, even though it kept you busy all throughout Thanksgiving break, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brett, I know you got to go, but Craig had asked you a question earlier. Do you want him to follow up with it now? Because we'll let you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I had to wait till he tweeted it. I can't scoot myself on your show. Myself, Pete Nakos, and Chris Lowe reporting that Penn State is zeroed in 1,000% on Kalani Sitake as their next coach. Obviously, Sitake does not want to make a decision until after the Big 12 title game. But from what we're told, he is the clear-cut number one choice. Can BYU get to the number Penn State's at? Is that enough to keep him? Does the result of the game impact Kalani's decision? If he wins and now he's in the playoffs, does he still tell Penn State no? If he loses, is it easier to accept the job? So that could obviously create some more dominoes. So that's the next one, which obviously impacts a lot of folks from the Big 12.
No kidding. And even the championship game this week with Tech and in Arlington at AT&T Stadium. We appreciate you and glad we pushed that back. And I get ready to retweet it. You just mentioned that with us too. Brett, you're the best, man. Thank you very much for your time and have a great week.
Hey, thanks, guys.
Thank you very much. That's Brett McMurphy on 3. He was waiting for the company on 3 to tweet it. It says BYU's Kalani Sitake has emerged as Penn State's top target to become the Nittany Lions' next head coach. And there is that. That was tweeted like 5 minutes ago, and we have him on there to discuss it. I got to tell you guys, I know that, Craig, when you walked in the door, you were discussing it. I remember the question at the presser earlier today, but I never thought it was at this level. And obviously, whatever level it ends up, whether it's Penn State or BYU, this is awfully interesting.
Yeah, I still think it's a dangerous precedent to just go off of like predictive markets and using those as a basis for reporting. I think you still need to have your Brett McMurphys and your Chris Lowe's and those types of guys to do the actual groundwork and the phone calls and all those types of things. But that's sort of where I saw this all start. And then it picked up steam. And then the next thing you know, when I was looking around last night, but particularly today, it was like, all on the BYU side of like, no, we're hearing there's something to this. No, it actually sounds like there is something to this. It wasn't just like, oh, he's now the favorite because, I don't know, like the 6 guys ahead of him all got hired yesterday, which is what happened basically. Like Golish, Summer, like all these guys go off the board. And so then you look around, you're like, who's Penn State hiring? And yeah, it's a massive job. I would tend to think that Kalani Sitake stays at BYU just because of the history there. But again, it's like with Lane Kiffin. Look, man, these are just grown men that are making choices about their lives. And like, I'm never going to fault Lane Kiffin for feeling like I want to go live in Baton Rouge and coach LSU because I think it's a better gig right now, or I just want to go there and I think it's going to be more fun. Like, loyalty can take you so far, but you've ultimately got to do what's best for you. And I don't know what Kalani Sitake feels like will be best for him when the decision needs to be made here in the next few days, but it definitely felt like it went from kind of just something out there in the atmosphere that maybe didn't need to be paid that much attention to originally, but that quickly became like, oh no, this needs to be paid attention to, and this is very real, and there's very much stuff going on behind the scenes. And so when Brett said that, I was half expecting they were going to tweet out that he was taking the job, like he was going to be the next head coach, but instead it's just that he's the firm, clear-cut number one choice.
Part of the story from McMurphy, Lowe, and Nakos. Sources have told On 3, the Nittany Lions have made it clear to Sitake they will offer a lucrative salary pool, including defensive coordinator Jay Hill, as, of course, they get ready for the Big 12 championship game against Texas Tech.
Now, if there was a school in the Big 12, Tech, but BYU also has a very large fan and donor base.
Oh, yeah.
So if, they've got time, they've got a week here, while he's coaching in this championship game to try and match that offer if he gives him that opportunity, which I would think he would, seeing it's his alma mater. But sometimes these jobs are just, hey, can I go do this? I know what I can do here. I'm always going to love it here. But can I go do this? Can I challenge myself? That's what Lane Kiffin is doing. Now, his method of leaving is odd, but all not totally his fault, but he could have done it a little more politely, I guess. But Kalani Sitake, you wonder, when these things come along, you've got to at least consider them. We saw it with Scott Drew here when Kentucky was open. And he went and considered it because if you're a basketball coach, there's only 3 of those jobs, and while you have the one that you want and the one that you love, you at least owe it to yourself to think about it.
You wonder if that decision would be different with all the turmoil now within the athletic department. I bet it would. I bet it would be with the AD Mack Brown gone. Good question, Craig. Glad you eventually we got back around to asking it though.
Yeah, I knew something was up when he said, hold on, and I just thought it would be perhaps an announcement that he was taking the job. Instead, it's just that he's going to be looking at it, and I haven't read the report, but what did he say? A decision after the game this weekend is likely? I don't want to put words in his mouth. But
I'm all about the Big 12 championship, keeping our team focused on that. We're going to avoid all the distractions.
Well, what Brett said was, how does the game affect his decision? If they win the game, they're in the playoff. Do you decide not to go?
Well, then you have the Lane Kiffin situation. Not comparing Kalani to Lane, but as far as what do you do?
Well, there's so many different ways you could look at that, and none of us know what's in his mind right now as far as what is something that he's looking to do. Is he looking to build out a dynasty at BYU and just cement himself there even further, or Is he looking to maybe go out on a high note and, hey, we win the Big 12 and we're going to the playoff and this is the perfect time to then now go and challenge myself with a new obstacle and go to this massive program in Happy Valley and this and that. I don't know, but yeah, very interesting stuff. And yeah, I came rolling in today. I was like, we got to talk about Sitake and BYU. There's clearly something going on here. And so glad we had the fortunate timing of having Brett on to sit there and put his stamp on this reporting and to let us know that, yeah, there is very much something to this. And this week just got a whole lot more interesting for BYU fans and for Big 12 fans and for Penn State fans and for college football fans. So we are officially on Sitake watch, although I guess there's no news on when exactly to be expecting anything other than we know he'll be there in Arlington on Saturday. And to what degree after that, no telling.
Man, it's an unbelievable sport. Mack was discussing a lot of what could maybe fix it a little bit, but supply and demand, we discussed that earlier. And Kalani Sitake has a hell of a resume, popular guy no matter where he's at. I would hate for him to leave BYU. It would not be easy. I'm sure it would kill him. But at the same time, you're talking Penn State. BYU has the funds. They have the backing and all of that, but he has to at least listen to what's going on at Penn State.
I think we all understand BYU's got a lot of money. There's a lot of big money figures being thrown around with this contract. Now, I can't tell what's factual and what's not, but you're talking $10+ million for starters on salary. And then whatever, there's been various numbers thrown around like staff and all of that. I don't think it'll be a question of money for him either way. When all is said and done, he is already probably a very fortunate man and a rich man, but he is going to be extremely rich after this, wherever he ends up coaching in 2026. But yeah, he's got a big decision to make because, as Brett just said, clear-cut number one choice, right? So, yeah, that's an interesting twist in this whole saga, and the timing sucks for BYU fans, but it's like I asked Brett, and I understand now he's trying to answer and also break this story simultaneously because I was like, damn, what can I ask him that he's going to answer? But I understand it's a really complicated question of how do you change the calendar to fix all of this? And there isn't a simple answer to that. But you just had this last weekend of the regular season completely overshadowed for the most part by this coaching discussion. And the Egg Bowl still went off without a hitch, but then all day Saturday's lane watch and then Sunday's lane watch. And now you're going to championship weekend, and BYU can't just sit and enjoy it. They're going to be worrying about Kalani Sitake for the next 5 nights.
Mm-hmm.
And then even if they win, it just sucks. It sucks that this is overlapping as much as it does, but it's part of the beast, and that's how things work now.
I think Lane Kiffin enjoyed all of everything.
That's
not
where
saying he's not wasn't at some point just ready to throw up with the decision. Kalani Sitake just happens to be the next man up available. And I bet this will eat him alive. But if anyone can make the decision and be, at peace with it, it could be him.
My whole thing on Lane Kiffin is that I don't have any issues whatsoever with any man making the decision that's best for him or woman or whatever. I think if he wants to go coach in Baton Rouge, more power to you. But the part that does bother me is that I know he's playing every side, and I know he's trying to get whatever he can. And people, well, wouldn't you do the same thing? Yes, to a degree, though. I don't know that I would have dragged it out as long. I don't know that I would have sat there and then in my immediate statement try to throw the AD under the bus because I tried to talk to him and to let me coach, and the players wanted me to coach them for the rest of the playoffs. And, then he immediately did the interview with Marty Smith where he's like, no, I totally understand. It's almost like, I don't know, like the note took a shot in the second paragraph to try to shift the focus from him to the AD. Also, he's just never – it's never his fault, even though it's always his decisions. And it's not, he doesn't need to be blamed for anything necessarily, but he creates the situation himself. Like, that's what you can't deny.
He bot farmed, or somebody bot farmed
for sure.
him. And there were all these duplicate tweet of he's a father and a husband and whatever else. But the other thing was he said that about the team wanted me to.
Yeah.
I think that was an overcalculation of, I'm sure there's some that do and some that don't. But you can't speak for all of them.
I believe Neil McCready, who's about as on the beat as you can be, has had other guys say otherwise. If I remember what I was reading last night correctly, not everybody was like, yeah, Lane needs to coach us the rest of the way. So, yeah, maybe there were some guys that said that, but He tried to throw the AD under the bus.
Yeah.
He tried to in that second paragraph of that statement, and then he handled it a lot better later with Marty Smith, where he's like, I totally understand the decision. But in that statement he released, it's like, you're trying to say that I was up for coaching and I was going to do what's best for Ole Miss and the team. And I believe that to a degree. But ultimately, Lane Kiffin is Lane Kiffin, and I believe he is a guy with a massive ego, and he can do whatever is best for himself. But don't try to kid us and play like, all shucks, guys. I don't know. I'm just a football coach. It's like, dude, you're way more smart and calculated than that.
I think Penn State can offer. Excuse me, Paul. I think Penn State could probably put together an offer that's probably 2 to 2.5 times what he's making at BYU.
If they want him bad enough, they can.
The TV deal that the Big Ten has,
that's the thing, man. But we don't really know what BYU's coffers look like, and we don't know what they have at their disposal. But you would think if you're going simply off your average comparison, then yes, that TV deal alone gives them like double-digit millions to play around with by default that BYU or any team that's not in the Big Ten has, or SEC.
They gave, is it Kevin Young, the coach, the basketball
Yes.
coach? They gave him chunks, big, large chunks. And Sitake, of course, has done a really great job since BYU entered the Big 12. They weren't quite ready for the first year, but they have made themselves pretty much, you could look at Tech and BYU and 2 or 3 others who are going to be hanging around a while.
By the way, Brett said the right thing about the calendar when Craig asked, or I agree with. They have to blow the whole thing up. And the quicker they get to that decision of blowing the whole thing up and getting rid of the things that don't apply to now football to later. And it's not about professionalizing it. It's just about admitting the realities of the sport that's in front of you and not the sport that's behind you and making it work. And then they'll be like, oh, we should have done this forever. That's what they'll do because, I'll just say, like, the biggest thing that they're using as an excuse right now is the academic calendar. Okay, if Johnny Manziel can never set foot in a classroom at Texas-A&M because he's too famous, you can't tell me that you guys can get together in the NCAA and create some sort of online pathway where I can transfer to LSU and finish my semester at Ole Miss. Like that, the technology doesn't exist for that. The infrastructure doesn't exist. Bullcrap.
It is crazy and fun and also nerve-wracking. I'm sure exhilarating. All of the emotions, just like watching a game with what goes on in college football. And I think Mack was also saying this about the calendar. The calendar is so out of whack. There's a lot of things you really can't change. And so you have coaches who leave. It's been happening forever. Do they coach the bowl game? A bowl game. But then you're talking about a college football playoffs where there could be 4 games. And then you have signing day Wednesday. The portal opens the first week in January and people are still playing. It is nuts. And I don't know if they could ever gather it all together and make any sense.
Yeah, I'm trying to just enjoy it for what it is, but it's not what it was, and it probably won't ever be again. But that's your choice as a fan to put as much effort and enthusiasm and energy into being a fan of the sport, no matter its twists and turns, or backing away from it a little bit. And I know people on both sides of it. I find it interesting for different reasons now, as opposed to maybe why I found it interesting 5-10 years ago. I still love it, but yeah, there's a lot of things you wish you could change. It's just that because of the way they rigged it up for so long on a house of toothpicks, basically, and just were able to get by. And all of a sudden, when those all got splintered and started to break up, this thing had no real foundation underneath it. And you're like, oh, this was all just a mirage. This thing wasn't set up on actual brick and concrete. Like, this thing was totally on toothpicks this entire time. And just as nobody called them on their BS until eventually enough people did to where the whole mask got ripped off, even though we knew it was underneath already. So, it's still very interesting. And look, I know that On3 didn't break this story, by the way. I just want to make that very clear. There's been reporting by BYU guys that were on the conference call and that are around Provo. And so this has been swirling.
Ben Criddle at Football Scoop.
Yeah, this has been swirling for a day or two. I really started to take more note of it like Sunday. But, the BYU guys have been on this, but you do have now, like, if you need it anymore, like, is there really something? Okay, now everybody's talking about this at this point.
This is, by the way, one of the note from Ben Criddle, Football Scoop, and then we come back, we take a break with Phil Bennett. No agreement is imminent discussions are serious enough that potential staffing plans have already been part of the conversations. Sitake signed an extension last year, reportedly tying him through 29-30, but Penn State's financial capacity and the national stature of the job make the situation fluid. And yes, we do know BYU can find the money too. We know that, but this is something I bet BYU wasn't expecting to have to deal with this week at the Big 12 championship.
I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think they were thinking this was on the radar. No, I think this is kind of out of nowhere.
No. Yeah, let's go ahead.
All right, let's break. We'll come back with Phil Bennett and his thoughts on the coaching carousel and the games this past weekend. And this is 365 Sports. IdealMRI.com. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners have done a phenomenal job putting together a business that has been so successful. It's been around for quite some time. In fact, since the day they opened their door like a decade ago, they have offered $497 or less for an MRI. And then you're like, okay, well, is it different than maybe somebody else or a health? No, health systems go to them too. In fact, recommend them. And so do orthopedic surgeons that contact them at Ideal MRI when they want a patient to get a better look at what they have, whether it's a knee or a back or shoulder or neck, somewhere where there's a ligament or muscle damage that's creating a lot of pain that is so bad you cannot function and maybe not even sleep. Dr. Rob Maxey and his partners have a state-of-the-art imaging machine. I've been in it. You get the results. They send it. They put it in a portal. Speaking of portal, and your doctor can see it immediately if they are there to look at it. It is Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace off I-35 in Waco.
Established in 2007 and independently owned, Alliance Bank Central Texas is committed to helping families and businesses meet their financial goals. From their tellers to their board of directors, they know the importance of superior service and competitive products. Customers have confidence knowing that their financial needs are in good hands. It's your bank, Alliance Bank Central Texas, with 2 Waco locations, 4721 Bosque Boulevard and 191 Archway Drive on Highway 84, and at alliancebanktexas.com. Member FDIC, an equal housing lender.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
Have you heard of the new IRA? The new IRA, Insured Retirement Advantage, is a solution for high-income individuals and business owners who want to grow and protect their wealth without locking up capital or taking unnecessary risks. If you're an asset manager or a licensed insurance agent looking to provide your clients with guaranteed tax-free retirement income and legacy protection, the new IRA Insured Retirement Advantage is an option you need to know more about and is only available exclusively from North Star Funding Partners. For more information, go to northstarfundingpartners.com and tell them 365 Sports sent you.
Ready to take your business to the next level? Carrion Solutions has got you covered. We deliver world-class IT consulting, including Quest On Demand and Migration Manager, M365 and Exchange migrations, Active Directory assessments, security hardening, and Windows Server upgrades. Our experts specialize in consulting, monitoring, support, and managed IT services. We promise vision, professionalism, and unbeatable value. Satisfaction guaranteed. If you're not happy, we make it right. Remember the name Carrion Solutions. For more info, email sales@carrionsolutions.com or visit carrionsolutions.com. That's CARRION solutions.com. Carrion Solutions IT success guaranteed.
This is Richard Carr, and it's hard to believe, but 2025 marks our 26th year in the car business. I want to thank you for your support over the last 26 years. As a locally owned business, our customers in Central Texas community are also friends and neighbors. If you haven't been by lately, I invite you to come in and experience our amazing lineup of Buick, GMC, and Cadillac vehicles. Our goal is to make you feel like more than just a customer, but as a valued neighbor. Let us show you why we are people you can count on at Richard Carr, Buick, GMC, Cadillac.
Remember when you had a guy, someone who could fix anything? They're still out there at Batteries Plus. With their quick solutions and expert advice on batteries, key fobs, and phone repair, Batteries Plus will have you in and out and on your way in no time. Batteries Plus, the experts in charge.
Our man, Phil Bennett, Mondays. Yeah, you better have a coat on. It's cold as hell, man. You got all those big warmers and heaters in that man cave outside, but you better be tucked up.
Hey, don't be a candy ass.
All right. I don't even know where to start. Let's start with, there's a coach.
Do this.
All right.
Let's start with Baylor.
Oh, God. Okay.
Listen, did they not finish the season just like they started it with a quarterback run wearing them out?
Yep.
I mean, how ironic was that?
Yeah.
I mean, Jackson Arnold, you stop him, you win the game. The kid from Houston, you stop him, you win the game. I just about pulled my hair out watching that game.
Phil, one of the reasons that they retained him, that Dave Aranda with Dr. Livingstone was talking about their class of 2026, which is signing day in 2 days. And they lose a young man to Texas and Michigan, local players too, which has got to be a kick in the you-know-what.
Oh, yeah.
Should you ever retain a staff because of who you might? Okay. I wanted to, yeah.
And don't get me wrong, I'm a former coach. I defend coaches, but you got to look at the whole and not the few. I mean, the body of work was it hasn't been good. Let's say for a while. So it's interesting, that the people and it's also a very unique situation with no athletic director. So and who knows? Let's be honest. Probably not likely, but Dave could come back and a new season brings on a lot of different things. Who knows?
Phil, let's move to your beloved Aggies and the Longhorns the other night. I thought when it went into halftime, I said, this feels a little like LSU, like A&M they need to
bust out.
Yeah, they need to, you get nervous before something, you need to throw up, and then once you throw up, you feel better. Yeah. They just kept throwing up in the second half, though. It was little things like the false starts and offsides that extended drives or helped Texas out. Or I will say this, not to take anything away at all, because I think Steve Sarkisian did a great play calling job. He knew when they were going to stunt and called great plays that ran right past those stunts several times.
Paul, two things that stick in your mind in that game. Number one, once again, the quarterback had game-changing yardage. All of his scrambles, the ends were upfield, the tackles were outside, they were A-gap scrambles. The quickest way to get beat is give the offense a chance to run the ball north and south. And that's what Manning was doing on his scrambles. No roundhouse, no chase down. He went straight up the middle. The other thing is they could not defend the nub side run, pin and pulls. They didn't have enough people there. I don't know what Mike was thinking, the way he lined up, but they ran it 5 times for 67 yards. One of them was a 41-yard run, and they never had enough people there. Texas averaged 6.6 yards a carry. The second year in a row, they were over 6.5. He has a beat on what they're doing defensively, and he showed it.
Coach, how much have you seen Arch grow over the course of this year? There's been some changes, like with the offensive line, and the run game was the best it's been in a while there against A&M, but he's got the tools. That's why he was rated the way that he was, besides just the last name. I'm curious how you've seen him now, almost a full year of starting under his belt.
I think we all saw, Craig, at the beginning of the year, he was really raw or inexperienced. Not raw, but just inexperienced. From his first game against Ohio State to his last, As I said, he ran. He did not run the first game. Do you remember the Ohio State game?
Yeah.
He took the sacks. He took the sack, and he sort of, crumbled in the pocket. He did not do that. I think that was growth. The other thing that he did is on probably the biggest play of the game, the touchdown, really two plays. The tight end high-low that he threw that went down to the 1 yard line was a gorgeous ball. Set his feet, threw the ball to the tight end, and it was a great play. And then the next one, the touchdown to Wingo, he was in a scramble, kept his eyes downfield, and threw about as good a ball at the goal line, at the end line, as you could throw. So, yes, he has matured. And the thing about it, I know that Sarkisian knows it. He's still got a lot of proving that he can do, but he played well.
So they're in a predicament where they needed help over the weekend. Nobody helped them other than they helped themselves on Friday night. A&M, of course, is locked in. Now you have this who's going to be a part of the at-large burst. So if you're Texas A&M and Mike Elco, what are you doing? I don't want to sit there and go, oh, they don't have to play. That's a good thing. No, man, that's where they wanted to be. They wanted to be in Atlanta.
Yeah,
how long will it take to prop his team back up and get their bottom lip off the floor?
Well, I think the first thing, they've got to look at what they did. I mean, they got to look at themselves first, both offensively and defensively. I read some things with A&M people saying, well, they didn't beat us, we beat ourselves. Guys, that's not true. I mean, Texas' offensive line played as good as they've played all year, played like last year. Their running game, do you know, this is an interesting stat. This year, if Texas A&M would have held them to under 100 yards rushing, that would have been the first time since 1952 they had not had a back rush for 100 yards in a season. So, I think A&M needs to, they need to play, and they need to look at things. They're still a good team. There's no doubt about that. Everybody talks about their schedule. They didn't play Georgia, didn't play Alabama, didn't play Tennessee, didn't play Ole Miss. That's not their fault. That's not their fault. They won at Notre Dame. They won the games they had to. And, that game, as Paul said, at halftime, I was with you. I kept thinking, hey, we're going to come to second half, and we're going to play at a higher level. But you got to give Texas credit. They took the game away. They earned it. And anybody said they didn't is a liar.
So I don't know if you heard this, but LSU has a new coach, Phil. You're
talking to a guy. I've lived it.
Yeah. So it's a very weird situation. And Lane loves the attention. Some coaches love it. Some coaches just tell me, I just want to know the job I'm going to have. How do you feel about the entire thing, about the way it was handled with Ole Miss? And if you've got a team in the playoff that you can very likely win a national championship with, to me, it's just such a weird thing to leave that one, because it's not like Ole Miss is on the cusp of the playoff. They're in the damn thing.
Yeah. Paul, I believe this. I think, number one, LSU is a better job. I mean, you can look at the history of the game, the championships that have been won there, the recruiting base, everything, facilities, fans, and I say fans, number of fans. It's more of a national brand. And you said it earlier. He is a attention-seeking coach. Randy Clements told me the story that one time, one of the reasons he didn't get along with him, that he came in a meeting one day and they were all in a meeting and he said they're playing good, and all of a sudden Lane gets all, we have an issue here. He said, I put out one of the most highly ranked tweets, and two of our staff members didn't retweet it and didn't like it. Randy sat there and he goes, hell, that one of them's me. I don't know. And it led, I mean this, it led to where Randy was blackballed because he would, he didn't follow his bullshit, the tweeting and the memes, somewhat of a fraud.
Coach,
and let me say this.
Yeah.
Ole Miss knew it. They knew it.
Mm-hmm.
But he could win. LSU knows it. But is it going to be worth it? I mean, Lord knows. When they hired Kelly, hey, we got the Notre Dame coach. It's going to be an interesting time for sure.
Yeah, there's just as much of a chance that he goes and wins his first national title as a head coach as there is that he crashes and burns, and it's like a firing in the tarmac all over again.
You're exactly right.
It's like reality TV. We'll all be glued in. We just don't know.
I will tell you this: what he will find out, those LSU fans are a hell of a lot harder than them Ole Miss fans. Go 8-4 and see what happens to him. Look where BK is.
Yeah,
exactly.
No doubt.
So there have been a lot of fast and furious hires, like 5 SEC jobs opened up in closed in 24 hours, and there's been all sorts of movement. Eric Morris to Oklahoma State, and on and on. Maybe what's a job or two that's popped that you have found maybe of the most interest, or just that you've had more on your radar these last few days?
I really like the Auburn hire. I like that guy.
Summer.
For some reason, I don't know.
Golich, sorry.
Yeah, Golich. I don't know why, but this season I watched them a lot, and offensively and defensively, they were a really well coached, well designed. They were a good football team, good schematics, and I think he's in that tree of actually it's Art Briles' tree, because he was at Tennessee, and so I think he has a chance to make some movement there.
The Florida hired John Sumrall, and their fans are going to be disappointed to some degree because they just had a G6 coach. They're getting another one. I think a lot of them thought, like, Lane Kiffin loves Steve Spurrier. He's going to come here. It's why he wears a visor and all that. And so they didn't have that, and there's not like Lane Kiffin and then another guy with that kind of a big juice. But John Sumrall, kind of a coach the way he's stylistically after your own heart, Phil. It's defense. It's physicality. Right. And he's a little bit different vibe-wise than Billy Napier. What do you think about that and the situation in Gainesville, where it's been a long time since they've been who they think that they should be?
Having known Billy, I work with Billy. Billy had a lot of things, his big deal. He wanted to hire a bunch of recruiting people, numbers. I think John, being a defensive guy, will be a little bit more about the production and getting the right people and not worrying about the number of support staff. And I think football is obviously important to him. And I think his offensive staff will be critical, what they do with Lagway. Some people have told me that he might even be headed to Baylor. I mean, there's so much stuff out there. I've had people call me that he didn't like the way, his parents didn't like the way things went at Florida. So who knows? But I think he's a good coach. He's done a good job at Tulane, found a good quarterback late in the year, the BYU kid, and he's done a good job. Now, I will say this too. Don't be surprised if UNT doesn't light them up on Friday night.
Okay.
That could be a 65 to 60 game.
Yeah, that should be fun to watch. And of course, UNT with Eric Morris headed to Oklahoma State. Do you feel like Oklahoma State got the right guy based on who they are?
This year, when Eric made the change on defense, it was night and day. Skylar Cassidy, as much as the young quarterback was good, they've been pretty good on offense. But Skylar has really given them an edge defensively that they didn't have before. They got out of that 3-3-5, got in a 4-man rush, and they played and complemented that spread and the offense that the Leafs runs very well. And so, yes, I thought he did a great job.
Phil Bennett with us on Mondays at 5. right here with 365 Sports. Craig?
So, Coach, and amidst all this, I don't know if you've seen it today or not, but there's a lot of smoke that Penn State has turned their attention to Kalani Sitake, head coach at BYU, who's getting ready to prepare to play Tech again this weekend in the Big 12 title. He was asked questions about it, and he said your coach speak, but it's clear that there's at least negotiations going on. Your thoughts on that possibility of Sitake at Penn State, and just how do you handle that if you're him, if you don't know what you're doing yet, or you're trying to work through this, but you're also trying to prepare your team for a conference championship game coming up on Saturday?
That's a lot of balls to be juggling.
Yeah.
And it's I had not heard that. I heard you guys talking about when I was waiting, but my goodness, he's to me, I think we all think the same thing. He played it, correct me if I'm wrong, played it at BYU,
yep.
Grew up there, is Mormon. It would be hard to leave there, would it not? That would
you would think so, yeah.
That would be harder in my mind than what Lane just went through.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because Lane doesn't have any connections other than he was at Ole Miss. BYU, so Sitake almost like he's the face of BYU right now.
No question, and has been for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it just must be one of those, like, you never know how people, they just want to challenge, right? A different type of challenge.
I have always heard, though, that they have never paid their coaches.
Okay, yeah.
So
you're talking about BYU.
BYU.
Yeah. They have the money.
We know that.
I think his salary has been reported, which I can't tell. I don't know if in that $3.5 to $4 million. I know he just signed an extension recently, but
I will bet you, Dave, he's in the bottom half of the Big 12.
He very well could be, because we don't have all those open records, and a lot of the big talk is that Penn State's saying, like, here's a boatload of cash for you and your assistants. Bring Jay Hill with you and be your DC. So, like, that might be what tips the scales is the money side of things. Even if BYU has a ton, it doesn't mean they're using it the way that people assume that they are. So, yeah, that's the big hot rumor, and it's swirling out there that he's apparently now their number one choice, but nobody knows when or if things will be decided coming up before Saturday.
I was a little bit surprised the James Madison guy, with his ties to Pennsylvania, was not a guy that they really, really looked at. And evidently, he said today he never felt like he was in it.
Yeah,
really?
he's going to UCLA now.
Looks like UCLA is his
Chesney,
yeah. The other guy that I know was in it shortly was Pat Fitzgerald, who's going to Michigan State.
Yeah, they made the move quick.
They say that's why Michigan State fired their coach and pulled the trigger. They heard that Penn State had got an interest in him.
It sure seemed like that, because there was one report that Jonathan Smith was fired, and like 20 minutes later, there was a report that Pat Fitzgerald was hired. So it definitely looked like they kind of had that set up already for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Phil, I'm looking at the Alex Golish's compensation terms. It's obviously Auburn. That becomes official. How often did you get paid bonus money for bowl games? Now there's so many different things. How many wins, whatever. How complicated is that situation?
One of the things that when I can tell you this, when I went to Baylor, I made a bunch of things about the improvement of the defense or going to a bigger bowl, things that you can earn. And I think that has become a big deal with these player agents. I mean, with the coaching agents, is to making sure that they're accessible, but yet they're earned, because people appreciate that more. Am I right in the fact that LSU is going to pay a playoff bonus to Kiffin if they win?
If Ole Miss wins the national title, one of the reports was the governor, who said they can't spend that kind of money, and turned around and spent about twice as much, has at least, I don't know if that's been confirmed, said they would pay him what he would have made had he still been at Ole Miss if they win it all.
Wow. But yeah, I think there's a lot of things people put in there that you have to earn. Some of them are easy, some of them are hard, but I think that everybody looks, if we do this, this, and this. I know in my contract at SMU, if we had a winning record, you'd put an extra year on your contract. If you went to a bowl, 2 years, those type things.
Okay, man, good to see you. Appreciate your time.
All right,
Thank you, Phil.
Good to see y'all.
Go get warm.
Oh, it's not that. I told you.
I know.
Got to get a little bit tougher. Let's go.
That's what I tell him every day. He claims with the AC in here.
My God.
See you
Thank
guys.
you, Phil. Great to see you. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving week.
We did. Y'all too.
And look forward to it next Monday. We'll have them on. We'll know who's in the college football playoff, of course, by then, or early in the afternoon on Sunday.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing that we were talking about Sitake here is Jason McGowan, who, if you've followed BYU, NIL, and basketball team and all of that, but he's the CEO of Crumble and big donor for BYU. Don't believe he's a grad, if I remember correctly, like a Utah State guy, I think. But regardless, he's a big BYU donor, and he just hit Twitter in the last 30 minutes and said, "Some people are not replaceable. Sounds like it is time for me to get off the sidelines and get to work." So can safely assume of what he's talking about there. And if what Coach Bennett said is true, then you can see where Sitake getting a bunch of money for his assistants staff or whatever could be a tipping point. It could also just be the challenge of going to the Big Ten and all. I don't know, but it's a story. It's out there, and it's not going anywhere. He's the one that paid the
fine for them storming the field, right?
Yeah.
He's the one that said, "I'll take care of this." Yeah.
Go buy some cookies, BYU fans.
A few million cookies.
Hey, how about this real quickly? I know we got to get to the top five in the wheel and quizzes and the poll results. Alex Golish's contract for the first year is $6.7 million. He then will, if he gets to 9 wins, get $1.5 million more. Then $2 million for 10 wins, $1 million more after that for 11, and $1 million more after that for 12. And he has a chance to make big time money. Of course, they got to produce and win. Not to mention, there's other incentives you get with these contracts for being in a championship game, etc. When we come back, Paul Catalina and his top five, the wheel, quizzes, and poll results on 365 Sports.
A lot of questions as to where people can find the best supplements.
And that's why we have the Swell Score, because we have created this platform where our team of researchers and doctors have come together to bring top-notch quality supplements and information.
We make sure that if we are recommending a product, that it hasn't been reviewed by the same company that is producing that product.
Now we have a resource that we can do that.
That's far.
So much forgiveness. Wait, did you say forgiveness like far? Or forgiveness like forgiveness? Forgiveness. Forgiveness. Forgiveness.
I'm hearing far.
Forgiveness. Like forgiveness. Forgiveness? Forgiveness.
I'm still hearing far, but whatever.
Introducing Stealth 2 with more carbon for more forgiveness.
Forgiveness. Just hit it.
Tailor-made golf.
Lily was falling 10 times a day, covered in bruises. She would run just straight into a pole, right? It was a disaster. She would fall down the stairs all the time. She just could not navigate her environment. 8 weeks after starting functional mushrooms, she was assessed developmental age for physical therapy and no longer required that service.
Thanks for joining us today. That's a wrap.
Peace, love, and mushrooms.
Peace, love, and mushrooms. Rashad, you got me.
GetUmbo.com.
All right.
Let's unbox the all-new Walking Pad X21. It is the hottest thing on the fitness market right now. Whew. I like it. I like it a lot. Well done, Walking Pad. So after using the Walking Pad, I absolutely loved it. For the price, I adore it. I highly recommend it.
Welcome, guys. You're at the 10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company tasting room here. So we're located in basically central Colorado in the Rocky Mountains. Our two flagship whiskeys are our rye whiskey and our bourbon.
10th Mountain Whiskey and Spirit Company, Colorado.
This is Paul Catalina's Top 5.
Welcome into Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Flag and Anthem. Today, we're going to be grading the big hires. And by the way, hey, it's Cyber Monday today. Go to flagandanthem.com. Use our promo code 365sports for a discounted checkout. All right, there have been a lot of coaching hires over the last week or so. So we're going to grade them all right here over the next two top fives, the top 10 hires that have been made, and we'll just go through piece by piece. Number 5, Oklahoma State hires Eric Morris, A+. You're going to read a lot of pundits that give you a reason why this is a B+ hire or whatever. But knowing the Big 12 as we do and covering all the teams as we have, I cannot imagine a better fit for Oklahoma State and what they need right now. This is a guy who can find talent where other people aren't looking, particularly at the quarterback position, and develop it. And that is what they're going to need. Plus, right now, he very likely comes with one of those guys in Drew Mestemaker, if that's how it works out, which at this point, I see no reason to think why Drew Mestemaker is not the starting quarterback at Oklahoma State next year. This is an A+. This is a perfect fit. They swam in the pool that they could swim in. They didn't have to worry about the rest of the mess in college football. They went out and got Eric Morris. This is a perfect hire for them. Number 4, John Summerall at Florida, B+. The only reason I'm giving him a B+ and the hire a B+ is that Florida did not set their sights on another coach from a group of 6 league. It was always supposed to be a big name. They thought they could go get Lane Kiffin. They did not. They didn't really swim in any other ponds unless they did reach out to guys like Eli Drinkwitz, got a contract extension. Clark Lee got a contract extension. Brent Key, no word on that exactly yet, but that would have been another guy that you would have thought may have gone there. But they were also fighting against a lot of these guys in their alma mater, so they had to go back to the group of 6. Now, while Billy Napier and John Summerall had very similar records at Louisiana and at Tulane, and Troy before that, for John Summerall, I think this was a little bit different. He's wired differently. This is an SEC coach through and through. I'm not sure Billy Napier really is an SEC head coach. I think that he'd be a very good SEC position coach. I think that John Summerall is a head coach in whatever league you want to put him in, particularly the SEC, because it runs through his blood, a former Kentucky linebacker in his own right. He's intense. He's going to have them playing really hard defense, and I think he can retain a lot of the talent on that roster should they get the front office situation straightened out there in Gainesville. Number 3, Ryan Silverfield at Arkansas, a coach I really like. He doesn't have to move very far. He knows the area and to recruit those guys, but they had a lot of lead time and then didn't really make a lot of waves. It wasn't like they did with basketball. And there is a realization with Arkansas is that they're going to have to find somebody and bring them up. I do think that this is better to get a coach on his way up, like Ryan Silverfield, than it is to grab a guy who's maybe kind of stuck in the middle like they have in the past, or that was just kind of a random alum. Ryan Silverfield knows how to coach offense. He knows how to develop offensive linemen. And we'll see what kind of backing he's going to have in Little Rock from the rest of the big money people. Memphis has a bunch of money shoved into the middle of the table to improve their program. So Arkansas probably had to come with a pretty sweet deal, even though they are a better job all the way around than Memphis because they're in the SEC. But Memphis does have a lot of NIL backing coming its way over the next couple of years. Number 2, Alex Golesh at Auburn. I think this is an A-. I'm stopped short of giving it an A or an A+ just because I'd like to see how he adjusts to being back in the SEC. He was there at Tennessee as the offensive coordinator. He coaches quarterbacks really, really well. I think that this gives them an opportunity to maybe convince Deuce Knight to stay, which I don't know which would have happened with a a different kind of coach, but the offense that he runs is prolific. Deuce Knight will be the starter there next year. He started, the SEC special game against an FCS team a couple weeks ago and looked really good. So I think this is a really good hire for that. I mean, maybe there are other, better fits for Auburn than Alex Golesh, but I do think that he will do well. I think he's a very good coach, and we'll see how he adjusts. It's a big jump from USF to Auburn. USF is thrilled to have you. Auburn will start hating you if you lose the first game by a point. It's just kind of how it goes. So I think he's ready for that. He knows the SEC, but I still think an A- higher. This one, a lower grade than most people are giving it, and I will give you the reasons why. Lane Kiffin to LSU it's a no-brainer for LSU to go out and get the biggest name available and the guy who's the hottest coach around right now. However, a lot of this around Lane Kiffin doesn't make any sense to me. If it's not about the money, which part of me thinks it's probably a little bit about the money, like LSU promised him to kind of whatever Ole Miss offered, they would escalate it. He's just not going to say that because it's going to make him look bad. Like, oh, it's not about the money. It's about where I can win a title. Well, you're 11-1 right now, bro. Like, you could very well with this Ole Miss team win the title this year. Like, there's nothing about this Ole Miss team that tells me that they can't go beat anybody in the 12-team playoff. Like, Ohio State might be the most complete team, but I don't know if Ohio State's really played anybody this year to challenge them to the level outside of Texas, who did in the first game. Like, that's the best team they've played, and that was 3 months ago. Like, so you could win it this year, and then you could build something that's totally yours at Ole Miss, or you could go into LSU, whose situation is kind of a mess right now with the governor saying, like, hey, we're not going to pay these ridiculous things anymore, only to pay a coach more than they were paying before. Now, I don't know the buyout structure, but I also know this. They're also paying him his playoff bonuses on his contract with Ole Miss this year. So if Ole Miss wins in the playoff without him, he's going to get paid by LSU for helping another team win. It's bananas, man. And let's just point this out. I'm not saying he's not going to do it at LSU. I, in fact, think he probably will. But Lane Kiffin has not won an SEC conference title. He's not won a playoff game. He's not gotten to the 12-team playoff until this year. And then he left that team. So he's got some bridges to build. Also, it gives me a headache on the verge of aneurysm to think about the amount of smart assness that is going to live in Baton Rouge between him and Kim Mulkey. Insufferable levels of troll there. It's going to be a lot. It's going to be a lot. And I will leave it at that because we've talked about this at length already today. It's time to spin the wheel. Listen to that. Freshly repaired wheel. Okay. What stat matters just as much as winning and yardage? Is that the question there, Andrew? As winning and yardage.
What?
For winning or to winning is yardage? Just as much?
Say it again, Paul.
Okay. What stat matters just as much as winning and yardage? I don't think yardage actually matters all that much, to be quite honest with you.
No, I mean, Sarkisian even mentioned they had 200 yards more than Ohio State, even though they lost the game earlier this year, as he was trying to use that game as
no stat matters as much
turnovers.
as winning. So, like, matters to winning would be a different thing. I'd say turnovers, would be the stat that I would look at. That or penalties, negative yardage, that type of thing. I guess it depends on the matchup, which one's the biggest, but turnovers never do you any good. So I'll say that. But like negative yardage, I'm sure if you want to add penalties to that would be a pretty killer one that doesn't lead to a lot of wins as well.
I will say the most underrated stat ever is red zone defense.
Yeah.
Especially with the rules the way they are in college football now, you are not going to have a lot of doomsday defense type things where you're giving up 10 points a game and the last three are just a field goal in garbage time or something like that. No, you are giving up yards in between the 20s nonstop. So how good are you at forcing field goals or worse or not and giving up touchdowns?
Yeah, give up 500 yards, but give up 3 field goals rather than 3 touchdowns or 2. Phil Bennett started using that as a whatever,
Well,
a word or two or phrase when he got to Baylor because he knew that was huge.
Strategically, everybody, like even if you don't run a Bryles type spread, hash mark to hash mark outside the hash marks offense, people still use the whole field in a way they never have before in every kind of system. And not only that, targeting, unnecessary roughness, like those penalties get called 100% times more than they used to. So the advantage is for the offense to make some big plays. If you don't let them get over the stripe, then that's the key, not necessarily letting them get first downs.
I can't watch an NFL game because of the penalties now. I honestly can't. I just can't. All right, so I say turnovers, but red zone defense is obviously one that matters too, especially in this day and age of so many yards being compiled.
I have a question before we get into the pop quizzes here. Garrett, how do you feel about the Lane Kiffin hire?
Oh, yeah.
Our resident LSU fan who's just sat over there.
Look how he got his, my disgusting shirt and everything.
And look, I haven't been able to rock LSU gear in about a month, so it feels good to be able to wear the colors again. I'm not really sold on it. I feel like it could either be a complete disaster, or it could work. I think that he needs to be in the playoff year one. Like that needs to be the standard, right? Like you're coming over here, you better be there year one. I'm interested to see how he builds his team out. Like what's it going to look like as far as your staff? I know he's planning on keeping Blake Baker, which would be great. I'm really interested to see how he attacks the portal. What do you address from your quarterback situation going in? Do you ride with Van Buren? Do you try to bring somebody in?
So based
Van
on what we've
Buren's
seen,
not that great.
Hey, yeah, the Chambliss was a hell of a pickup for Ole Miss, that's for sure.
He would be. I think it can work. I think he can win there. If I was Lane Kiffin, I personally would have stayed at Ole Miss because I don't think LSU's that much better of a job in the current landscape of football than what you just had.
Yeah, I think it was unique to do your own thing, but I also totally get that LSU is a much bigger challenge and a much bigger brand. And I get what you mean. It's not like as large as the gap used to be, but it's definitely a bigger brand than Ole Miss in every way. Yeah.
I mean, like I just wish he'd be kind of straight up like clear about why. I mean, is there more money than Ole Miss is ever going to get? They've supported him in the portal. So I don't they paid so much for Walter Nolan and those guys a couple of years ago. So I just can't imagine that it's that.
Dude, I think it's everything. I think it's the fan base. I think it's the location of the talent. I think it's the history. I mean, look, they've had Ed Orgeron won a freaking national championship at LSU. Like if he can do it, Lane Kiffin could sure as hell do it. I think it's all that stuff. I think the fact that he might not at times be the biggest diva on campus, thanks to the women's basketball coach, was probably really, fascinating. No, I'm just kidding. I like Mulkey, actually. I'm just couldn't help myself there. But I'm sure that, boy, you talk about a reality show. Those two.
Here's the thing.
Lane.
It will be fun for a minute.
Oh, yeah.
And then he's going to say something to her that she's going to take very personally.
The moment he outshines her.
Or she'll make
it's
it up.
over.
Yeah. I mean, that's
but you know what?
Going to be rough.
He also said that his dad moved and I don't know. I want to fact check everything he actually says because I think he's a total bullshitter. But I respect his choice to live his life however he wants to, so long as he's not hurting anybody, and he hurt the hearts of Ole Miss fans, but that's part of college football that you can't just prevent that. So he said something about his dad moving 16 times when he was growing up.
Yep.
Maybe he just wants to move around a little bit. He's been at Ole Miss quite a while too. So, I mean, there's an easy list to make of why he would do it. I don't think it's that complicated. I just think the way it was all handled was it could have been better. And I don't know, but I'm not all in the mood of some other people of this is the worst day that's ever happened to college. It's whatever, man. We're way past that point.
I just think it's hard. If Ole Miss was 9-3 and kept kind of hitting the wall because they couldn't get the guys, then I would see that would be an easier out for him. But when you're 11-1 and in the thing, that to me, that's a hard sell.
That tells me he doesn't think they could go win the whole thing.
Well, that's the other thing is he basically told that team I want to coach you here and see what happens, but ultimately
I've taken you as far as I can go.
I think LSU is among the five or six programs that it would be hard to say there's 5 or 6 probably set up better than they are.
I've said this multiple times. They are like NILU as well. I mean, you look at how NIL's been implemented there versus other places. I mean, they've got several stars on several different sports teams that have been sensations on, as far as the influencer thing goes. Livy Dunn, obviously,
baseball,
Jaden Daniels, Paul Skeens, Floje Johnson, like Angel Reese. I mean, and that's like in the last 5 years.
Yeah,
I mean, not to mention Burrow and Jefferson and Chase. Like, I mean, they've got a litany of superstars. They've got trophies, and it's not really that hard when you think about it. It just sucks for Ole Miss.
And in spite of all the BS that goes on behind the scenes, they seem to somehow stumble their way through it into success.
That's a talent-laden area, man.
Exactly.
I don't know. Like, clearly, they don't have a money problem. They BS'd that they or tried to indicate that the money. I don't know. I just remember when the whole situation with Brian Kelly came out that they tried to cheapskate that whole thing, and now you're turning around paying all this money. It's like you always had the money. You were just trying to wriggle your way out of this choice that you made, and that's the slimy side for sure, because clearly the money wasn't an issue when you're doing everything that you're doing right now. And as somebody put out earlier today, I think like this is the final month they're paying Orgeron. So they're paying 3 coaches, Brian Kelly, Lane Kiffin, and Ed Orgeron all at the same time. So it's not a money issue. They tried to squirrel their way out of it, and they couldn't.
How old is Kiffin?
50.
How old is Lane? 50. Okay, I'm going to go. I know we're up later than normal here, but since he was born, his dad coached at North Carolina State, the Packers, Bills, Vikings, Jets, Vikings, Saints, Buccaneers, University of Tennessee, USC, Cowboys, Jaguars, Florida Atlantic, and Ole Miss.
Yeah,
that's talking about moving around. All right, sometimes that was the work.
Well, let's get to some trivia.
All right.
Okay. Who was the first NFL player to appear alone on the cover of Madden, marking the game? First game of the franchise, not headlined by John Madden himself. I think it's Eddie George. I don't know. I had all these.
I don't remember the years exactly.
Yeah, see, all these guys have been on it, though, which is tricky.
If this would have been a question about Pong or Centipede, I would have gotten it.
Yeah. I think it's Eddie George.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, let's go with Eddie George.
There we go.
Boom! Yes, Madden 01 featured Eddie George as the first standalone player cover star, ending the Madden era covers. His appearance made him an early example of the Madden curse, the superstition that cover athletes suffer injuries or performance drops after the game's release. George struggled with injuries and a costly playoff fumble, fueling the myth.
Yep.
All right, next one.
I haven't heard that much at all lately. Is maybe just because the game's not as popular. I don't know, or just guys aren't getting hurt. But yeah, that was definitely a thing there for a while.
Yeah, absolutely. There's not cover jinx on the college football yet, so at least
because it would kill college football based on like the panorama where they have like everybody involved possible.
True. That's true. Okay, next question. Which boxer is best known for his famous victory? Smokey, go ahead.
Rumble in the Jungle. Which boxer is best known for his famous? It's Muhammad Ali.
Yeah, Muhammad Ali. Would this one break your heart because you're a Frazier guy?
I think Rumble in the Jungle was actually Foreman.
Yeah,
he beat Foreman in the 8th round.
Oh, that's right. Ali Boumbaye. This is where Foreman walked in thinking he was popular and didn't.
Frazier Ali was Thriller in Manila.
Yeah, Ali Boumbaye. Yeah, there we go. Yeah,
8th round knockout. He took all those punches, blocked him from the big beast in George Foreman.
Yeah. Ali trained down there, right?
They all
loved him.
Yeah,
and Foreman walked in, and it was just a hornet's nest.
Yeah, rope-a-dope was what he helped block all those powerful blows from Foreman. Sometimes it's a matchup. Ali could beat Foreman. Frazier gave Ali hell, and Foreman beat the hell out of Frazier.
Do you think Muhammad Ali or George Foreman could beat Jake Paul?
It depends on how much. Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah.
Ali, of course, that was the one. He had lost a couple of fights to Norton and Frazier right before that.
Don't think that Jake Paul didn't call George Foreman.
Yeah, no, I know.
No, like he called George Foreman now, trying to rig that fight up and found out, no, we can't do that.
Can we get you out of the casket? All right. Poll results.
Is Ole Miss hurting its CFP chances by not letting Lane Kiffin finish the season? 54% say yes, it hurts CFP chances. 46% no, still fine without him.
Well, it's not just him, though. It's most of the coaches are leaving. You know, especially all the offensive coaches. And maybe,
I saw, what was it? What coach has a son on staff that I saw jumping on the plane?
Well, Charlie Weiss Jr.
It's Charlie Weiss Jr. Yeah.
Did you hear the audio? The fans, like there was like a pack of them at the airport looking through a chain link fence, which is kind of creepy.
Did you see the picture of his clothes they just threw out?
Those fans were, I mean, it was almost like you were watching some sort of a political fight.
Welcome to college football coaching carousels, because we've literally seen that in Norman and everywhere else over the last few years.
Next up, all right. Based on performances, record, and rankings, who's the best college football team in Texas this season? Texas Tech runs away with it. Texas at 14%, A&M at 13%, and North Texas at 6%. I don't think there's much argument for this.
I'm surprised by the distance, though. I mean,
not really with, I think, probably more Red Raiders watching this show than Aggies and Longhorns, but I also think a lot of people just give respect to Tech, and they've gone through this season completely unscathed. The last time we saw A&M, they looked very vulnerable and very much like a team that has weaknesses that are glaring and now exposed fully. And then Texas looks like a team that's really hitting the right stride, but it's almost too little too late for them at this point. I would love to see Texas Tech and Texas A&M in the playoff. If Texas were to make it in, I'd love to see them versus Texas Tech in the playoff. I think that would be great. And North Texas, man, if there was a G5, 6 to compete, I mean, they've got the offensive guys to make it maybe interesting for a little bit, but ultimately I think the defenses went out here, and that's where Texas Tech is a different type of team than just your typical Big 12 team. They've got the dudes that otherwise would go to Texas or to A&M and join Colin Simmons and those guys. Instead, they're in Lubbock, and that's where they're dating. It's not that Baron Morton in the offense is so high flying. They've had that. It's they got those edge rushers. They got the linebackers.
They got some.
That's where they can compete with these teams now in a different way than ever before. So,
and not all of them that transferred, of course, remember, were from Blue Bloods. They got guys from all over the place when it came to the portal, especially filling the needs they had on defense. All right. Texas Tech, 67%. I just thought that would be a little bit closer. All right. Is that it? Hey, do you have that picture real quick, Brandon? The picture of, this is Jeremiah Love, the running back from Notre Dame. We got it upside down or whatever. I got that pack. It's a bunch of, what do you call these things? Kisses. What are these?
Hershey Kisses?
No,
those are
like Valentine. I got that Valentine. I got this in the mail. Great to be a Heisman voter. Notre Dame sent that to me. Those are some of the nice perks. What's wrong with me saying that, Craig?
No, nothing.
These are good. You guys should get the mints is what they are. Mints. Brandon Rowe,
we're not Heisman voters.
Garrett Ross and Andrew Valade. Thank you, guys. Thank you to our viewers and our sponsors. Good night, 365 Sports.